The wine glass shattered against white silk, and Naomi Carter watched her daughter's face crumple in slow motion. But it wasn't the stain spreading across Maya's dress that made her heart stop. It was the man in the $1,000 suit dropping to one knee in front of her 5-year-old, pulling a coin from behind her ear like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Grant Whitmore, her CEO. The man who'd barely looked at her in 3 years of working under the same roof. And now he was smiling at her daughter like they were the only two people in this ballroom full of strangers who'd spent all night reminding Naomi exactly how alone she was. What happened next would change everything. Her career, her carefully built walls, and the lies she'd been telling herself about what she deserved. If you want to see how a single night of pretending became the most dangerous truth she'd ever faced, stay with me until the end. Drop a like and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The Sterling Hotel ballroom glittered like something out of a fever dream, all crystal chandeliers and ivory roses, the kind of wedding that cost more than Naomi's annual salary and made damn sure everyone knew it. She sat at table 17, tucked in the back corner near the kitchen doors where the servers pushed through with trays that smelled better than anything on her plate. The chiquilla read, Naomi Carter plus guest, but the chair beside her had stayed empty all night. She'd stopped explaining years ago. More champagne, miss? A waiter hovered at her elbow, professional smile fixed in place. I'm good. Thank you. Naomi touched her still full glass, the bubbles long gone flat. Across the room, Maya spun in circles with a cluster of children, her yellow dress, the one Naomi had stayed up until 2 a.m. hemming, a bright spot of joy that made the loneliness worth it. Aunt Rochelle had claimed babysitting duty 20 minutes into the reception, waving Naomi toward her assigned table with the kind of pitying look that said, "Go pretend to have fun with the adults." The adults at table 17 had included her, briefly, in their conversation about vacation homes in the Hamptons before the topic naturally evolved into couples stories that left no room for a single mother who couldn't afford to leave Brooklyn. They'd drifted to other tables an hour ago. Naomi checked her phone. 9:47 p.m. Maya's bedtime was 8:30 on a normal night, but this wasn't normal. This was cousin Vanessa's wedding, the social event her mother had been talking about for 6 months, the one where Naomi needed to show up and prove she was doing fine, just fine. Better than fine, actually, because she had a good job at a prestigious publishing house and a beautiful daughter, and she didn't need anyone's concern or their setups with nice men from church who looked at Maya like she was a complication instead of a blessing. She was taking another sip of dead champagne when the chair beside her scraped across hardwood. I was told the most interesting person at this wedding was hiding in the back. The voice was deep, amused, and so unexpected that Naomi choked slightly, bubbles burning her throat. Grant Whitmore settled into the empty seat like he'd been invited, which he absolutely had not been. He looked different outside the Meridian publishing offices, still wearing a suit that probably cost more than her rent, but his tie was loosened and there was something almost human in the way he'd rolled his shirt sleeves to his elbows. At work, Grant Whitmore was a figure you saw from a distance, crossing the lobby with purpose, visible through glass walls in meetings Naomi's level never attended, occasionally riding the elevator in silence that felt like it had weight. He'd spoken to her directly, maybe 4 times in 3 years. Mr. Whitmore. Naomi set down her glass carefully, running through possible reasons for this interaction and coming up empty. I didn't know you were on the guest list. Grant, he corrected, and his smile did something unfair to the corners of his eyes. Vanessa's husband and I went to Yale together. When I saw your name on the seating chart, I have to admit I was curious why Naomi Carter from Acquisitions was related to the bride. Cousins, Naomi said, still processing the fact that he knew her name, her department, and apparently where she was seated. Second cousins, technically. Our mothers are close, and yet you're back here instead of at the family tables. It wasn't quite a question. Naomi felt the familiar tightness in her chest, the one that came whenever someone noticed the ways she didn't quite fit. The family tables were full. This worked out fine. Grant's gaze swept the empty chairs around them, then returned to her face with an expression she couldn't read. Naomi, I've sat through enough of Derek Vance's editorial meetings to know when you're being diplomatic. You don't have to do that with me tonight. The mention of her direct supervisor, Derek, who took credit for her acquisitions and somehow always scheduled important meetings during the hours she'd blocked for Maya's doctor appointments, sent a spike of anxiety through her professional instincts. Was this about work? Had she done something wrong? I'm not sure what you mean, she said carefully. I mean, you found and acquired the Samantha Cross mystery series that's currently number 3 on the Times list, and Derek presented it to the board like it was his discovery. Grant leaned back in his chair, studying her. I mean, you've brought in 12 debut authors in the past 18 months, and 10 of them hit their first print targets. I mean, you're the reason our contemporary fiction line didn't fold last year. And somehow you're still an associate editor while people with half your track record are getting senior positions. Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. Mr. Whitmore, Grant. I don't think this is appropriate dinner conversation. You're right. He smiled again, and it was disarming in a way that made her want to trust him, which was exactly why she shouldn't. I'm here as a wedding guest, not your CEO. So let me ask you something as someone who just happens to work in the same building. Why are you really sitting back here alone? Before Naomi could formulate an answer that wasn't because I don't belong anywhere else, a burst of laughter from the dance floor drew her attention. Maya had broken away from the children's group and was attempting some kind of spinning move that defied physics and common sense. Naomi was halfway out of her chair when it happened. A server carrying a tray of red wine turned too quickly. Maya spun directly into his path. The collision was almost gentle, but the result was catastrophic. 3 glasses toppling in slow motion, deep burgundy liquid arcing through the air before gravity pulled it down onto Maya's yellow dress in a spreading stain that looked like blood. The music kept playing, but everything else stopped. Maya's face crumpled. The server started apologizing. Aunt Rochelle rushed over with napkins that would do nothing. And Naomi was moving, weaving between tables with her heels clicking urgency against hardwood, maternal instinct overriding everything except the need to get to her daughter before the tears came. She was 3 steps away when Grant Whitmore dropped to one knee in front of Maya. "Hey there," he said, voice calm and low like he was gentling a spooked horse. "I'm Grant. That's a pretty spectacular stain you've got there." "Ah," Maya hiccuped, tears balanced on her lashes. "My dress is ruined." "Maybe," Grant agreed seriously. "Or maybe it's magic. Do you believe in magic?" Despite herself, despite the moment, despite everything, Maya nodded. Grant reached behind her ear, the movement smooth and practiced, and produced a quarter that definitely hadn't been there before. Maya's eyes went wide. "See? Magic. And I bet if we get you cleaned up, we'll find this dress has some magic in it too. It might not look the same, but sometimes different is better. What do you think?" "How did you do that?" Maya touched her ear, searching for more coins. "A magician never tells." Grant rose smoothly and met Naomi's eyes over her daughter's head. Something passed between them, an understanding, an acknowledgement, something that made Naomi's throat tight. "But I think your mom probably wants to get you into something dry. I have a suite upstairs with a bathrobe that would make an excellent princess cape, if that helps." "We're fine," Naomi said automatically, even as Maya tugged on her hand with sudden enthusiasm. "Mama, can I have a princess cape?" "Baby, we need to—" Naomi's phone buzzed in her clutch. She pulled it out one-handed, still gripping Maya, and felt her stomach drop at the text from Charisse, her regular babysitter. "Emergency with my mom. Can't do tomorrow. So sorry. Tomorrow, Sunday." The day Naomi had blocked for finishing the manuscript evaluation that was due Monday morning, the one she'd promised Derek would be on his desk first thing, the one she couldn't push because he was already looking for reasons to write her up for time management issues. Grant was watching her face. "Problem?" "Nothing I can't handle." The lie tasted familiar. "But we should probably get going anyway." Maya's bedtime was 2 hours ago, Grant guessed, and when Naomi nodded, he crouched down to Maya's level again. "Here's the thing about princess capes. They work better when you're actually tired because that's when the magic is strongest. And my suite has 2 bedrooms, which means your mom could tuck you in upstairs and you wouldn't have to go all the way home tonight. What do you think?" "Can we, Mama? Please?" Every instinct Naomi had cultivated over 5 years of single motherhood screamed warnings. Don't accept help from strangers. Don't put yourself in someone's debt, especially not your CEO. Don't let Maya get attached to people who won't stay. Don't. Don't, don't. But she was so tired, tired of sitting alone at weddings, tired of scrambling for backup childcare, tired of choosing between her daughter and her career and somehow failing at both. Tired of being strong when strength felt like just another word for lonely. That's very generous, she heard herself say, but we couldn't possibly. Naomi. Grant stood, and his voice dropped to something meant only for her. I have a 2-bedroom suite I'm not using. Your daughter is wearing wine like a badge of honor. You just lost your Sunday childcare, and I'm guessing you have work you need to finish this weekend. Let me help. No strings, just someone who knows what it's like when everything lands at once. You have kids? The question slipped out before she could stop it. No, but I have a sister with 3 of them, and I've done enough emergency babysitting to know that look on your face. His smile was gentle. The one that says you're running calculations about whether you can make it home, get Maya bathed and in bed, and still have time to do whatever it is that's making your shoulders tight. He'd noticed her shoulders. Naomi looked down at Maya, who was investigating the quarter Grant had given her like it might multiply. She looked at her phone, at Sharice's text, at the impossibility of tomorrow. She looked at Grant Whitmore, her CEO, practically a stranger, someone who had no reason to care about her problems, and saw something in his expression that made her want to trust him, even though she knew better. Just for tonight, she said quietly. And tomorrow morning we're gone before we impose any further. Deal. Grant offered his hand, and when she shook it, his palm was warm and solid. Now, how about we solve the immediate wine crisis before someone tries to send that server to the guillotine? The next hour unfolded like a dream that Naomi kept expecting to end badly. Grant navigated them through the concerned relatives with the kind of smooth authority that made people step back and nod, assuring everyone that it was handled, just a small accident, nothing to worry about. He produced a room key from somewhere and led them to the elevators while Maya chattered about magic and princesses and whether the bathrobe cape would be pink. The suite was on the 17th floor. Not a room, a suite, the kind with a living area and a view of Manhattan that probably cost more per night than Naomi's monthly rent. Grant gave them the brief tour. Master bedroom to the left, second bedroom to the right, bathroom stocked with hotel amenities, and yes, there were robes. I'll leave you to it, he said, already moving toward the door. Keycards on the counter. I'll be downstairs for another hour or so, but don't wait up. Make yourselves comfortable. Wait. Naomi caught his sleeve without thinking, then immediately released it like it had burned her. You're giving us your room? I'm giving you the extra bedroom. I'll take the master when I come up. He paused at the door, one hand on the frame. Naomi, I'm not some white knight with ulterior motives. I saw someone who needed help, and I have resources to spare. That's it. Get your daughter cleaned up, order room service if you want, and stop looking like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. The door closed behind him before she could formulate a response. Mama, can we have the princess cape now? Maya was already pulling at her stained dress, leaving burgundy fingerprints on everything she touched. Yes, baby. Let's get you cleaned up first. The bathroom was marble and brass, the kind of luxury Naomi had only seen in magazines. She ran a warm bath while Maya explored the amenities, delighted by the tiny bottles and the towels that were somehow both thick and soft. Getting her daughter clean and happy and wrapped in a bathrobe that did in fact make an excellent cape, that part was easy. The hard part was the 20 minutes after, when Maya was asleep in the bedroom's king-size bed, buried under covers that probably had a thread count Naomi couldn't pronounce. And Naomi was alone in the suite's living room with her thoughts and her phone and the manuscript evaluation she'd promised to finish. She'd been working for maybe 30 minutes when the door clicked open. Grant entered quietly, clearly trying not to wake anyone, and stopped short when he saw her curled on the sofa with her laptop. You're working. You said make myself comfortable. Naomi gestured at the screen, at the marked-up draft of a debut thriller that showed promise but needed structural help. This is comfortable for me. He laughed. Actually laughed. And the sound was warmer than she'd expected. Fair enough. Mind if I join you? I have emails I've been avoiding all evening. They worked in silence for a while. The kind of quiet that should have been awkward, but somehow wasn't. Naomi found herself relaxing degree by degree, the familiar rhythm of editing pulling her into focus. She was deep in a scene about betrayal and trust when Grant spoke. Can I ask you something? Naomi looked up, suddenly aware that he'd abandoned his laptop and was watching her with an intensity that made her self-conscious. Okay, why do you let Derek take credit for your work? The question hit like a slap. I don't… Naomi. He said her name like it was the answer. I've been in this business long enough to know when someone's being managed out. Derek schedules meetings when you can't attend. He presents acquisitions without mentioning your name. He's blocked 2 promotion recommendations I've signed off on in the past year. So I'm asking, why do you let it happen? Her laptop screen had gone dark. She stared at her reflection in the black mirror, a tired woman in a borrowed hotel room having a conversation that could cost her everything. Because I have a 5-year-old daughter and a rent payment and health insurance I can't afford to lose. Because Derek is my supervisor and he holds my annual review in his hands. Because I've learned that sometimes survival means keeping your head down and doing the work even when no one's watching. Someone's watching. Grant's voice was quiet. I'm watching, and I don't like what I see. Then maybe you should look away. The words came out sharper than she intended. With respect, Mr. Whitmore, you have the luxury of not liking it. I have the reality of living it. And this conversation, you helping me tonight, whatever this is, it makes things complicated at work. People already talk about women who get ahead by… Don't. The command was soft, but absolute. Don't finish that sentence. Don't reduce yourself to their small-minded gossip. And for the last time, it's Grant. We're not at work. We're at a wedding where we both happen to know people, and I'm allowed to have a conversation with a colleague without it being some calculated power play. Are you? Naomi met his eyes. Because in my experience, powerful men don't do things without reasons. So what's yours? Why are you really here, in this suite, working beside me instead of downstairs, networking with people who could actually advance your career? Grant was quiet for a long moment. Then he closed his laptop and leaned forward, elbows on knees, suddenly much closer than the professional distance they'd maintained. You want the truth? That would be refreshing. I'm here because 3 years ago, I sat in on a pitch meeting where a 25-year-old assistant editor presented the most compelling case for a debut author I'd ever heard. You knew that manuscript inside and out. You'd done market comparisons, identified the target audience, projected sales based on actual data instead of wishful thinking. And when the senior editors tried to shoot it down, you defended it with the kind of passion that made me remember why I got into publishing in the first place. Naomi's breath caught. She remembered that meeting, her first real pitch, the one where Derek had let her present because he'd been certain it would fail. That author sold 8,000 copies in the first month, 12,000 by month 3. And I've watched you repeat that performance over and over, always pushing for the books that deserve a chance, always doing the work that no one else wants to do. You make everyone around you better, Naomi, and I'm tired of watching you get punished for it. So this is what? Pity? The word tasted bitter. This is recognition. Grant held her gaze. This is me saying I see you and I see what you're capable of, and I'm done watching Derek Vance waste your talent because he's intimidated by how good you are. Naomi's phone buzzed, a text from her mother. How's the wedding? Did you meet anyone nice? The laugh that escaped was half sob. You want to know the real reason I was sitting alone tonight? Because my family set me up at the singles table. Because being a single mother at 28 means people either pity you or judge you, and they all want to know when you're going to find a nice man and give Maya a proper father. And the answer I'm supposed to give is soon, or I'm working on it, or literally anything except maybe never because I'm fine on my own. Are you? Grant asked quietly. Fine on your own? I have to be. That's not the same thing. Naomi stood abruptly, needing distance, needing air, needing this conversation to stop peeling back layers she'd spent years building. She walked to the window, to the view of Manhattan spread out in lights and shadows. Why are you doing this? Really? No corporate answer, no deflection? What do you want from me? She heard him stand, heard his footsteps cross the carpet. When he spoke, he was close enough that she could feel the warmth of him at her back. Monday morning, I want you to walk into Derek Vance's office and quit. Naomi spun around. What? Quit working for him. Transfer to a different division, or better yet, let me create a position that actually matches your skill level. Senior editor, your own acquisitions budget, direct report to me instead of Derek. No more blocked promotions, no more stolen credit, no more choosing between your daughter and your career. You can't just... People will think... The implications crashed over her like a wave. Everyone will assume we're sleeping together. Let them assume. Grant's jaw was set. I'll have HR document every promotion recommendation Derek blocked. I'll have the acquisitions data showing your success rate. I'll make it so clean that no one can question it without looking like a fool. But I need you to want it, Naomi. I need you to stop accepting less than you deserve. And if I say no, then Monday morning, nothing changes. You go back to your desk, I go back to mine, and we pretend this conversation never happened. His expression softened. But I hope you don't. Because watching you shrink yourself to fit Derek's insecurity is the biggest waste of talent I've seen in 15 years of publishing. Naomi opened her mouth to respond, though she had no idea what she was going to say, when a sleepy voice called from the bedroom. Mama? The moment shattered. Naomi moved on instinct, crossing to the bedroom where Maya sat up in bed, bathrobe cape askew, looking small and confused in the big hotel room. I'm here, baby. What's wrong? I had a dream about the magic man. Maya rubbed her eyes. Is he still here? I'm here. Grant appeared in the doorway, and Naomi should have told him to leave, should have maintained some boundary, but Maya's face lit up, and she was already climbing out of bed. Can you do the coin trick again? Maya, it's late. Mr. Whitmore needs to keep... One more trick, Grant said, dropping to one knee again. And then sleep, deal? Deal. Naomi watched her daughter's delight as Grant produced the quarter from impossible places, behind her ear, under her pillow, inside the bathrobe pocket. Watched the way he made her laugh without trying too hard, the way he treated her like she mattered. Watched, and felt something dangerous unfold in her chest. When Maya was settled again, truly asleep this time, they retreated to the living room. Grant poured himself a glass of water from the bar, offered her one. Naomi accepted because her throat was suddenly dry. She's wonderful, Grant said. You've done an amazing job with her. I'm her mother. That's not a job, it's just what you do. Not everyone does it well. He took a sip, studied her over the rim. Naomi, I meant what I said earlier. About the position, about Derek, all of it. But I also need you to know this isn't some transaction. I'm not offering you a promotion in exchange for anything. Your career advancement has nothing to do with tonight, or with us being at this wedding, or with any future interaction we might have. You've already earned it 10 times over. Then why does it feel like I'm about to make a deal with the devil? Grant laughed, low and surprised. Maybe because the devil has better press than most CEOs. Look, I'm not asking you to decide tonight. Think about it. Talk to a lawyer if you want. Check my track record. Ask anyone in the industry whether I'm someone who plays games with careers. But also ask yourself, how much longer are you willing to be invisible? The word landed like a punch. Invisible. That's exactly what she'd been tonight, sitting at the back table in a room full of family who'd looked through her. What she'd been at work, doing the labor while Derek collected the glory. What she'd been in her own life, so busy proving she could handle everything alone that she'd forgotten to ask whether she should have to. I need to think about it, she said finally. Fair enough. Grant set down his glass. I'll take the couch tonight. You and Maya have the bedrooms. You're not taking the couch in your own suite. Our suite, apparently, for the next 10 hours. And yes, I am. The couch is fine, Naomi. I've slept in worse places. He was already pulling off his suit jacket, loosening his tie. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to come early, regardless. Naomi wanted to argue, but exhaustion was winning. She gathered her laptop, her phone, her thoughts, paused at the bedroom door. Grant? Yeah? Thank you. For tonight. For Maya. For all of it. His smile was soft in the lamplight. You're welcome. Now go sleep before I have to pull a quarter out of your ear, too. She fell asleep to the sound of him settling on the couch, and dreamed of coins appearing from nowhere, of magic that felt almost real. Sunday morning arrived with pale light through hotel curtains and the smell of coffee. Naomi woke disoriented, taking a moment to remember where she was and why. Maya was still asleep beside her, one small hand curled under her chin. Naomi slipped out of bed carefully, pulled on yesterday's dress, and padded into the living room. Grant was already up, showered and changed, looking unfairly put together for someone who'd slept on a couch. He'd ordered room service, actual breakfast, not just coffee, and was reading something on his phone when she emerged. "Morning," he said. "I wasn't sure what Maya liked, so I got a little of everything." The spread on the room service cart was ridiculous. Pancakes, eggs, fruit, pastries, juice. Naomi's stomach reminded her that she'd barely eaten at the wedding. "This is too much." "Then take what you want and leave the rest. Coffee?" She accepted the cup he poured, let the first sip burn clarity into her brain. They ate in surprisingly comfortable silence until Maya woke up and discovered pancakes, which turned breakfast into a sticky, syrupy affair that somehow Grant handled with more grace than most adults. It was nearly 10 when Naomi finally gathered their things. Maya's dress was ruined beyond saving, but Grant had somehow procured a hotel gift shop t-shirt that was too big but would work for the subway ride home. They were almost out the door when he stopped them. "One more thing." Grant pulled out his phone, opened something, turned the screen toward her. "The photographer from last night sent the wedding proofs to everyone who attended. There's one I thought you might want." The photo showed the dance floor late in the evening. Naomi and Grant, she didn't remember this moment, but there it was. Grant's hand on her back, her head tilted up toward him, both of them caught mid-laugh about something she couldn't recall. They looked like they belonged together, like a couple, like something real. "I can have him send it to you," Grant offered, "or not, if you prefer." Naomi stared at the image, at the version of herself who looked happy and unguarded. "People are going to see this." "Probably. They're going to talk." "Definitely." She looked up at him, at the man who'd spent the night on a couch to give her daughter a safe place to sleep, who'd offered her a career she'd earned but never expected to receive, who was looking at her now with an expression that made her feel seen in a way that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. "What are we doing, Grant?" "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I'd like to find out, if you're willing." Maya tugged her hand. "Mama, can we come back and visit the magic man?" "Maybe," Naomi heard herself say, which wasn't a no, which was maybe the most dangerous word she'd ever spoken. They left the suite together, rode the elevator down in a bubble of possibility that felt fragile as glass. In the lobby, they ran directly into Vanessa, the bride still glowing with post-wedding happiness, who lit up when she saw them. "Naomi, and you must be Maya. I've heard so much about you." Then her eyes landed on Grant, and something delighted sparked in her expression. "Grant Whitmore, you absolute sneak. Why didn't you tell me you knew my cousin?" "It never came up," Grant said smoothly. "Beautiful wedding, Vanessa. You and James looked perfect together." "Thank you. And I have to say, you two—" She gestured between Naomi and Grant. "The photographer got the most gorgeous shots of you dancing. You make such a striking couple." "Oh, we're not—" Naomi started. "Together," Grant finished, but his hand found the small of Naomi's back warm and present. "Yet, we're taking things slow." Naomi's heart stopped. Vanessa's smile went supernova. And before Naomi could process what was happening, Grant was guiding them toward the exit with promises to catch up later, leaving Vanessa to spread this news through the family like wildfire. On the sidewalk in the cold February morning, Naomi finally found her voice. "What the hell was that?" "Damage control," Grant said calmly. "You said people would talk if they saw that photo. So I gave them something to talk about that's true. We're taking things slow, which we are, because nothing has to happen right now, or next week, or on any timeline except yours." "You just told my cousin we're dating." "I told your cousin we're not together yet, which is accurate. I also implied we might be eventually, which is hopeful but not guaranteed. The rest is up to you." He hailed a cab, opened the door for Maya. "Think about the job offer. Think about what you want. And Naomi? Yeah? Stop punishing yourself for deserving good things." The cab pulled away before she could respond, carrying her and Maya back to Brooklyn, back to reality, back to a life that suddenly felt too small for the possibilities that had cracked it open. Maya chattered the whole ride home about magic and pancakes and the nice man who made coins appear. Naomi stared out the window at the city sliding past and wondered if she'd just made the best decision of her life or the worst mistake. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Vanessa said you were at breakfast with a handsome man. Details. Then another, from a number she didn't recognize. This is Grant, in case you need anything before Monday. No pressure, just available. Naomi looked at her daughter, at the text, at the photo of two people who looked happy together. She thought about visibility and invisibility, about the table at the back of the room and the suite on the 17th floor, about magic tricks and career offers and all the ways a single night could change everything. She thought about Derek's face when she walked into his office tomorrow, and for the first time in 5 years, Naomi Carter smiled and thought, maybe I do deserve good things. Maybe it was time to stop pretending otherwise. Monday morning hit like a collision Naomi had seen coming but couldn't avoid. She dropped Maya at kindergarten with an extra-long hug that made her daughter squirm and complain, then rode the subway to Meridian Publishing with her heart hammering against her ribs. The manuscript evaluation sat in her bag, finished at 3 a.m. Sunday night, after Maya had finally fallen asleep and Naomi had given up on her own rest, she'd read Grant's text message, maybe 40 times. No pressure, just available. The building looked the same as it always did. Glass and steel and the kind of modern architecture that was supposed to inspire creativity, but mostly just reflected clouds. Naomi swiped her badge, rode the elevator to the 7th floor, and walked through the maze of cubicles toward Derek Vance's office with the evaluation clutched in her hand like a weapon. He was already at his desk, tie perfectly knotted, reading something on his computer screen with the kind of focus that meant he was probably shopping online. Derek had mastered the art of looking busy while doing nothing, which was maybe his only real talent. Naomi, he glanced up, surprised. You're early. I finished the Brennan manuscript. She set the evaluation on his desk, watched his eyes flick over the title page where her name sat in the byline. Full structural notes, market comparison, and acquisition recommendation. It's solid, but it needs developmental editing before we make an offer. Derek picked up the document, flipped through it with the kind of casual dismissal that made her teeth ache. I'll take a look. Anything else? This was the moment. The cliff edge. The point where she either stepped back to safety or jumped and hoped Grant had been telling the truth about the parachute. Actually, yes, Naomi's voice came out steadier than she felt. I'm requesting a transfer out of your division. Derek's head snapped up. Excuse me? A transfer. I've been in this position for 3 years, and I think it's time for a change. She kept her hands loose at her sides, her expression neutral. I'll submit the formal request to HR this morning, but I wanted to give you the courtesy of knowing first. A transfer. Derek set down the evaluation slowly, like he was handling something fragile. May I ask where you think you're transferring to? Positions don't just materialize, Naomi. You need approval, budget allocation, a receiving supervisor who actually wants you. I'm aware of how it works. Are you? He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. Because from where I'm sitting, this sounds like a fantasy. You're an associate editor with decent numbers but no leadership experience. What division do you think is going to take you? The condescension in his voice was so familiar it almost didn't register anymore. Almost. That's between me and HR, Naomi said. I'm informing you as a professional courtesy, Derek, not asking for permission. His expression shifted, confusion giving way to something harder. Did someone put you up to this? Because if you've been talking to other supervisors about positions without going through proper channels, that's a violation of... I haven't violated anything. Naomi met his eyes, refusing to look away first. I'm requesting a transfer. That's well within my rights as an employee. Your rights, Derek laughed, sharp and ugly. Let me tell you about your rights, Naomi. You have the right to submit a request that will sit on someone's desk for 6 months while they figure out what to do with you. You have the right to explain to every potential supervisor why your current one is so eager to let you go. You have the right to discover that maybe you're not as valuable as you think you are. The words landed like punches, each one aimed at the soft parts she'd tried to armor. But Naomi had spent the weekend thinking about invisibility and magic tricks, and the way Grant had looked at her daughter like she mattered. She'd spent Sunday night reading his text and remembering what it felt like to be seen. I guess we'll find out, she said quietly, and walked out before Derek could respond. Her hands were shaking when she reached her cubicle. The space was smaller than a prison cell, just enough room for a desk, a chair, and the stack of manuscripts that never seemed to shrink. Naomi sat down, opened her email, and started typing the formal transfer request before she could lose her nerve. She was 3 sentences in when her desk phone rang. Naomi Carter, Acquisitions. Ms. Carter, this is Jennifer Wu from HR. Do you have a few minutes to come down to my office? Mr. Whitmore requested a meeting regarding your employment status. Naomi's stomach dropped. My employment status? Nothing to be concerned about. Jennifer's voice was professionally pleasant, which meant absolutely nothing. Just some paperwork to review. Are you available now? I'll be right down. The HR department occupied the second floor, all neutral colors and motivational posters about teamwork. Jennifer Wu was a small woman with sharp eyes who'd been with Meridian longer than most of the executives. She gestured Naomi into her office and closed the door with a soft click that felt ominous. Please, sit. Jennifer pulled a file folder from her desk drawer, opened it to reveal documents that looked official and therefore terrifying. Mr. Whitmore has submitted a request to create a new senior editor position reporting directly to him, and he's recommended you for the role. Naomi's breath caught. He what? The position would involve managing a team of 3 associate editors, developing the contemporary fiction acquisition strategy, and maintaining your own acquisition portfolio. Salary increase of 40%, full benefits, and a discretionary budget for author development. Jennifer slid a paper across the desk. This is the formal offer. You have 72 hours to review and respond. The numbers on the page blurred. 40%. Her own team. Direct report to Grant. This is happening very fast, Naomi managed. Mr. Whitmore can be efficient when he wants to be. Jennifer's expression was carefully neutral. I should mention that your current supervisor, Derek Vance, has filed a complaint alleging that this promotion is the result of an inappropriate relationship between you and Mr. Whitmore. There it was. The other shoe dropped right on schedule. I see. Naomi's voice came from somewhere far away. And what does HR think? HR thinks that Mr. Whitmore has provided extensive documentation showing that he's recommended you for advancement twice in the past 18 months, both times blocked by Mr. Vance without clear justification. HR also thinks that your acquisition record speaks for itself. 12 successful debuts, 10 of which met or exceeded sales targets, and an overall acquisition success rate of 73% compared to the division average of 42%. Jennifer tapped the folder. The data supports the promotion, Ms. Carter. The complaint looks like retaliation. But people will still talk. People always talk. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. You can't control that. You can only control whether you let their talk keep you from opportunities you've earned. So I'll ask you directly, have you been romantically involved with Mr. Whitmore? Naomi thought about the hotel suite, the breakfast, the photo of them dancing, thought about Grant's hand on her back, and the way he'd looked at Maya like she was magic. Thought about the text message still sitting on her phone. No pressure, just available. No, she said. We attended the same wedding this weekend. We talked, that's all. Then the complaint has no merit, and I'll note it as such in the file. Jennifer closed the folder. Take the 72 hours, Ms. Carter. Read the offer carefully, and consider whether you want to keep letting Derek Vance define your career. Naomi walked back to the 7th floor in a daze. The elevator was empty, which was good because she wasn't sure her face was showing anything appropriate for public viewing. Senior editor. Her own team. 40% raise, which would mean she could afford a better apartment, better childcare. Maybe even a vacation that didn't involve staying with relatives who asked when she was getting married. She was almost to her cubicle when she saw Derek standing there, arms crossed, jaw tight. We need to talk, he said. I don't think we do. You went over my head. His voice was low, furious. You went directly to Whitmore and apparently convinced him that you deserve a promotion you haven't earned. I earned it 10 times over. Naomi kept her voice steady even though her pulse was racing. Every acquisition you've presented to the board as your discovery, I found those authors. I evaluated those manuscripts. I built those relationships. You just signed the paperwork and took the credit. That's how management works. I oversee the division, you do the work. That's the hierarchy. No, Derek, management means developing your team and giving credit where it's due. What you do is theft. His face went red. You have no idea what you're talking about. I've protected you, Naomi. Do you know how many times I've had to explain to the board why we need to keep an associate editor who can barely manage her schedule, who misses meetings because of childcare issues, who outsells every other editor in the division? Grant's voice cut through the cubicle farm like a blade. He was standing 3 feet away, immaculate in a charcoal suit, and his expression was glacial. Derek, I need to see you in my office. Now. I'm in the middle of now. Derek's mouth opened and closed. Then he turned and walked toward the executive wing with Grant following, leaving Naomi standing in the wreckage of a confrontation she'd been avoiding for 3 years. She made it exactly 10 minutes before curiosity overwhelmed professionalism. The executive wing had glass walls, supposedly to promote transparency, which meant if you positioned yourself at the right angle near the coffee station, you could see into Grant's office. Naomi told herself she was just getting coffee. The fact that she could see Derek's gesticulating and Grant's stone-faced responses was purely coincidental. That's quite a view. The voice belonged to Rachel Kim, one of the senior editors from the literary fiction division. She'd always been kind to Naomi in that distant way of someone 3 levels above you in the hierarchy. I heard Derek filed a complaint. Word travels fast. Word travels at the speed of gossip, which is faster than light. Rachel poured herself coffee, added cream with careful precision. For what it's worth, everyone knows Derek's been taking credit for your work. Most of us just didn't know how bad it was until Grant pulled the acquisition records. Naomi turned to look at her. He pulled the records? Every acquisition in your division for the past 3 years. Cross-reference them with email trails, pitch meetings, manuscript evaluations. Apparently Derek's name is on a lot of contracts, but your name is on all the actual work. Rachel took a sip of coffee. Grant doesn't play games, Naomi. If he's offering you a position, it's because you've earned it. Don't let Derek's bitterness make you doubt that. Through the glass, Naomi watched Derek stand abruptly and storm toward the door. Grant remained seated, expression unchanged, until Derek was gone. Then his eyes found Naomi through the glass wall, held her gaze for a long moment before he looked away. That's an interesting dynamic, Rachel observed. It's complicated. The best things usually are. Rachel disposed of her coffee cup, smiled. Congratulations on the promotion, Naomi. It's about damn time. Naomi spent the rest of the day trying to work while her brain spun through scenarios. She picked Maya up from school, made dinner, helped with homework, and went through all the evening routines on autopilot while her mind played and replayed the conversation with Jennifer Wu. 40%. Her own team. Direct report to Grant. After Maya was asleep, Naomi pulled out the offer letter and read it properly. The salary was higher than she'd expected, not just 40% above her current pay, but 40% above what associate editors made, which meant Grant had calculated the raise based on what she should have been earning if Derek hadn't blocked her previous promotions. The job description was detailed and challenging and exactly the kind of role she dreamed about when she first got into publishing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grant. No pressure. But if you have questions about the offer, I'm available to discuss. She stared at the message for a full minute before typing back. Can we meet tomorrow? Not at the office. His response came immediately. Name the time and place. They met at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, far enough from Meridian that they wouldn't run into colleagues, but close enough to Maya's school that Naomi could get there quickly if needed. Grant was already seated when she arrived, looking somehow both professional and approachable in jeans and a sweater that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget. Thank you for meeting me, Naomi said, sliding into the chair across from him. Of course. He pushed a coffee toward her, oat milk latte, which she'd mentioned exactly once at the wedding. He'd remembered. Did you have a chance to review the offer? I did. It's generous, almost too generous. It's appropriate for the role and your experience level. Grant wrapped his hands around his own cup. Naomi, I need you to understand something. This offer isn't charity, and it's not some backdoor attempt at a relationship. You're legitimately the best person for this position. The numbers prove it. Derek doesn't think so. Derek's complaint was rejected by HR. He's also been placed on a performance improvement plan pending review of his management practices. Grant's expression was neutral, but there was steel underneath. He's not going to be a problem anymore. You're destroying his career. I'm holding him accountable for poor management. There's a difference. Grant leaned forward slightly. Derek Vance has been coasting on other people's work for years. You weren't the first person he stole credit from, just the most recent. HR has complaints going back 18 months from 3 different team members. This was overdue. Naomi took a sip of her latte, buying time to organize her thoughts. What happens if I take this job and it doesn't work out? What happens if people are right about why I got the promotion? Then you prove them wrong by being excellent, which you already are. Grant's voice was firm. But I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Are you hesitating because you genuinely have concerns about the role, or because you're afraid of what it means if we're working together more closely? The question hit like he'd aimed it at her chest. Both. Fair enough. He sat back, studying her. Here's what I can promise you. This promotion is legitimate and documented. If anyone questions it, HR has a file 3 inches thick, proving you earned it. Your performance will be evaluated the same way every senior editor's is, based on results, not personal feelings. And if you decide you want to pursue something outside of work with me, that's a completely separate conversation that happens on your timeline, not mine. And if I decide I don't want to pursue anything, then we work together professionally and I respect that boundary completely. Grant's eyes were steady on hers. I'm not Derek, Naomi. I'm not going to punish you for saying no, and I'm not going to make your career advancement contingent on your personal decisions. You can have one without the other. You can have both if you want, or you can have neither. Those are all valid choices. Naomi thought about Maya, about the better apartment they could afford, about the future she could build with a salary that reflected her actual worth. She thought about the photo from the wedding, about Grant's hand on her daughter's shoulder, teaching her magic tricks, about the text messages that made her feel seen. I want the job, she said quietly, and I want to see where this goes between us. But I need to go slow, and I need you to understand that Maya comes first, always. I wouldn't expect anything else. Grant smiled, and it transformed his entire face. So is that a yes to the offer? It's a yes, with conditions. I'm listening. Naomi pulled out her phone, opened her notes app where she'd written everything down at 2 a.m. 1. We keep our personal and professional lives completely separate at the office. No special treatment, no private meetings that aren't work-related, nothing that gives anyone ammunition. Agreed. 2. If we're going to date or whatever this is, you meet Maya properly. Not as my boss, as a person in my life. And if she doesn't like you or if it feels wrong for her, we stop. Absolutely. 3. I need you to be honest with me about what you want, about why you're doing this, about everything, because I've been lied to before and I can't. Her voice cracked slightly. I can't do that again. Grant reached across the table, stopped just short of touching her hand. Naomi, I can't promise that this will be easy or that I won't make mistakes, but I can promise you honesty. And I can promise that if Maya says stop, I stop. And I can promise that your career is yours, regardless of what happens between us personally. Then yes. Naomi let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Yes to the job. Yes to taking this slow. Yes to seeing what happens. Yes. Grant's smile was soft. I'll let Jennifer know you're accepting the offer. Start date is 2 weeks from today, which gives you time to transition your current projects and set up your new office. I get an office? Senior editors get offices. It's in the handbook. He stood, and she stood with him, suddenly aware that this was real. She was doing this. Congratulations, Naomi. You've earned this. They walked out together, and on the sidewalk in the afternoon sun, Grant pulled her into a hug that felt both professional and personal, both safe and thrilling. Naomi let herself lean into it for exactly 3 seconds before stepping back. I need to pick up Maya, she said. Go. I'll see you at the office. Grant paused. And Naomi? Thank you for saying yes. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of transitions. Naomi worked with HR to finalize the paperwork, handed off her current projects to other editors, and endured Derek's cold shoulder with the knowledge that she was leaving. Her last day in his division, he didn't say a word to her. Just let her pack her desk in silence while he pretended she didn't exist. Rachel Kim helped her move into her new office on the executive floor, An actual room with a door and a window, and enough space for a proper desk and guest chairs. It felt surreal. "You're going to do great," Rachel said, setting down a box of Naomi's books. And for what it's worth, I'm glad Grant finally pulled his head out and did something about Derek's bullshit. Did everyone know except me? Most people suspected, but proving it and acting on it are different things. Rachel leaned against the doorframe. "Grant's a good boss, Naomi. Demanding, but fair. He'll push you harder than Derek ever did, but he'll also back you up when it matters." That night, Naomi sat Maya down for a serious talk. "Baby, you know how Mama works at the publishing company?" Maya nodded, coloring a picture of what appeared to be a dragon with excellent fashion sense. "Well, I got a new job there. A better job with more responsibility. It means sometimes I might have to work a little later, but it also means we can do more fun things because I'll be making more money. Can we get a puppy? Let's start with a better apartment and work our way up to puppies." Naomi smoothed Maya's hair back. "I also wanted to talk to you about the magic man from the wedding, Grant. You remember him? The one who did the coin trick? That's the one. He's my new boss at work, but he might become someone who spends time with us outside of work, like a friend. Would that be okay with you?" Maya considered this with the gravity of a Supreme Court justice. "Does he know more magic tricks? I think we can ask him." "Then it's okay." Maya returned to her dragon. "But Mama?" "Yes, baby?" "You look happy, like really happy, not the pretend happy you do for Grandma." Naomi's throat tightened. "I am happy. Is that okay?" "It's good." Maya looked up and her eyes were so earnest it hurt. "You should be happy more." "I'm working on it." Naomi's first day as senior editor started with a 6 a.m. panic attack that she managed to breathe through before Maya woke up. She dressed in her best suit, the one she saved for important meetings, and dropped Maya at school with promises that everything was going to be fine. The office felt different from the executive floor. People noticed her, said good morning, treated her like someone who mattered instead of someone to talk over in meetings. Grant had scheduled a team meeting for 9 a.m. Naomi walked into the conference room to find her 3 new direct reports already seated. Marcus, a 26-year-old associate editor with a thriller specialization. Jenna, who handled contemporary romance, and Kevin, who'd been with Meridian for 15 years and looked less than thrilled to be reporting to someone younger than him. "Good morning," Naomi said, settling at the head of the table like she belonged there. "I'm Naomi Carter, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you. I know transitions can be challenging, so I want to be clear about my expectations and my approach." She spent the next hour outlining her vision for the team, asking about their current projects, and listening more than she talked. Marcus was enthusiastic, Jenna was cautiously optimistic, and Kevin remained skeptical but professional. After the meeting, Grant caught her in the hallway. "How did it go?" "Kevin hates me, Marcus wants to be my best friend, and Jenna's waiting to see if I'm competent." Naomi managed a smile. "So about what I expected. Kevin hates change. Give him a month to see that you know what you're doing, and he'll come around." Grant handed her a folder. "Author meeting at 2. First-time novelist, memoir about immigration. I want your read on whether we should make an offer." "You want me in the meeting?" "You're a senior editor now. This is part of the job." He paused. "Unless you're not ready." "I'm ready." Naomi took the folder, felt the weight of it. "Thank you, Grant, for the opportunity." "Thank me by being excellent." He started to walk away, then stopped. "And Naomi? Dinner this weekend? Just the 3 of us, somewhere Maya would enjoy. No pressure, but I'd like to meet her properly." "Let me check with her first." "Of course." That evening, over chicken nuggets and apple slices, Naomi broached the subject. "The magic man, Grant, wants to have dinner with us this weekend. Would you like that?" Maya's eyes lit up. "Will he do more tricks?" "Probably, if you ask nicely." "Then yes. Can we go to the place with the big fish tank?" "I'll see what I can arrange." Naomi texted Grant that night. She said yes. Saturday at 6? There's a restaurant in Park Slope with a massive aquarium that she loves. His response? "Perfect. I'll make a reservation." "And Naomi?" "I promise to be worthy of her yes." Saturday arrived with anxiety and anticipation in equal measure. Naomi dressed Maya in her favorite dress, purple with stars, and herself in jeans and a sweater that felt casual but put together. They met Grant outside the restaurant, and Naomi watched carefully as he crouched down to Maya's level. "Hey, Maya. Remember me? The Magic Man." Maya bounced on her toes. "Did you bring the coin?" "I brought something better." Grant produced a small box from his pocket. "But first, I need to tell you something important. I really like your mom, and I'd like to spend time with both of you, but only if that's okay with you. You're the boss here." Maya looked at Naomi, then back at Grant. "What's in the box?" "Open it and see." Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with a single charm, a tiny book with pages that actually opened. Maya gasped. "For the smartest 5-year-old I know," Grant said. "Your mom told me you love stories." "I love it!" Maya threw her arms around Grant's neck, and Naomi watched something shift in his expression, surprise giving way to something tender. Dinner was easier than Naomi expected. Grant asked Maya about kindergarten, her favorite books, whether she preferred dinosaurs or dragons. He listened to her rambling stories with genuine interest, made her laugh with terrible jokes, and when she spilled her water, he handled it without fuss or judgment. After Maya went to the bathroom with a restaurant staff member, Grant leaned across the table. "She's incredible, Naomi. You've done an amazing job with her. She makes it easy most days." Naomi traced the rim of her water glass. "What do you think? Honestly, I think I'd like to do this again, often. If you're both okay with that." "We're okay with that." Maya returned with a story about the fish in the tank, and the rest of dinner passed in comfortable chaos. When Grant drove them home, because he'd offered and Naomi had been too tired to argue, Maya fell asleep in the back seat within minutes. "She likes you," Naomi said quietly as Grant navigated Brooklyn traffic. "The feeling is mutual." He glanced at her. "How are you doing with all of this?" "Terrified. Hopeful. Trying not to overthink it. Let me know if I can help with any of those." At her building, Grant carried a sleeping Maya upstairs while Naomi unlocked the door. He laid her gently on her bed and Naomi walked him back to the door. "Thank you for tonight," she said, "for being patient with her. With us. Thank you for letting me in." Grant hesitated, then cupped her face gently. "Can I kiss you?" Naomi's breath caught. "Yes." The kiss was soft and careful and over too quickly, leaving her wanting more. Grant pulled back, smiled. "Good night, Naomi." "Good night." She closed the door and leaned against it, smiling like a teenager. From the bedroom, Maya's sleepy voice called out, "Mama, I like the Magic Man. Can he stay?" "Not tonight, baby, but maybe someday." "Good," Maya mumbled. "He makes you happy." Naomi changed into pajamas and climbed into bed beside her daughter, thinking about possibilities and magic, and the way Grant had looked at her before kissing her goodnight. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Thank you for trusting me with your family. Sleep well." She fell asleep smiling, and for the first time in years, the loneliness that had lived in her chest felt like it might actually have an expiration date. The next 6 weeks felt like living in 2 different movies at once. At work, Naomi was the senior editor who'd earned her place through documented excellence, leading acquisition meetings with the kind of confidence she'd been faking for years until it became real. At home, she was the single mother navigating the terrifying waters of letting someone in, watching Grant slowly become part of their routine with a patience that both reassured and unnerved her. Kevin came around just like Grant had predicted. It happened during a particularly contentious editorial meeting where a senior VP questioned Naomi's recommendation to acquire a debut novel about a Jamaican immigrant family. The numbers were solid, the writing was extraordinary, but the VP kept circling back to whether the market was ready for that story. "The market is always ready for excellent writing," Naomi had said, keeping her voice level even though her pulse was racing. "And if we're only acquiring what the market already knows it wants, we're not doing our jobs as publishers. We're just following trends instead of creating them." Kevin had leaned forward then, adding his 15 years of experience to back her up. The VP had approved the acquisition, and afterward Kevin had stopped by her office. "You remind me why I got into this business," he'd said simply. "Welcome to the team, boss." Well, Marcus and Jenna had already been on board, but Kevin's endorsement shifted something fundamental. Naomi's team became actually hers, and the work that had always felt like pushing water uphill suddenly had momentum. Grant kept his distance at the office, professional to the point of being formal, but 3 times a week he'd text around 5:30. Dinner tonight? My place or neutral territory? And Naomi would check Maya's homework situation, her own energy levels, and the complicated calculus of how much closeness felt safe before responding. They fell into a pattern. Tuesdays were pizza nights at Grant's apartment in Tribeca, where Maya would build elaborate block towers while Grant taught her card tricks, and Naomi pretended she wasn't cataloging every detail of how he lived. The apartment was beautiful in that effortless way money could buy. Exposed brick and hardwood floors, a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine, bookshelves that suggested he actually read instead of just collecting spines for show. But there were also dishes in the sink sometimes, a coffee ring on the counter, sneakers kicked off by the door. He lived there. It wasn't just for display. Thursdays, they'd meet at the Park Slope restaurant with the fish tank, and Saturdays were negotiable based on Maya's activities and Naomi's deadlines. Grant showed up for Maya's kindergarten art show without being asked. He learned that Naomi took her coffee with oat milk, and Maya wouldn't eat anything green unless you called it dinosaur food. He never pushed for more time than Naomi offered, never complained when she canceled because Maya was sick or she was drowning in manuscripts, never made her feel like she owed him anything beyond what she was ready to give. It was terrifying how easy it was becoming. You're falling for him. Rachel's observation came during a lunch break, delivered with the casual certainty of someone stating an obvious fact. They were eating sandwiches in Madison Square Park, watching office workers rush past with the kind of purpose that suggested they were late for important things. I'm taking things slow with him, Naomi corrected. There's a difference. Naomi, you light up when you talk about him. You check your phone every 5 minutes in case he's texted. You've started wearing that smile that means you're thinking about something good. Rachel took a bite of her sandwich, chewed thoughtfully. You're falling, and that's okay. It's allowed. It doesn't feel allowed. It feels dangerous. Love usually does. Rachel's expression softened. But from what I've seen, Grant's one of the good ones. And you deserve a good one after everything you've been through. Naomi had never told Rachel about Maya's father, about Terrence, who'd promised forever and delivered 18 months before deciding fatherhood wasn't for him, who'd left when Maya was 6 months old with apologies that meant nothing and child support payments that came sporadically enough to be insulting. But somehow Rachel knew anyway, the way women always seem to know each other's damage. What if it doesn't work? Naomi asked quietly. What if I let him all the way in and he decides it's too much? The single mom thing, the demanding job, the fact that I come with a 5-year-old who needs stability more than I need romance? Then you survive it, because you've survived worse. But Naomi? Rachel met her eyes. What if it does work? What if he's exactly what he appears to be? A good man who sees your worth and wants to be part of your life? Are you going to let fear keep you from finding out? The question haunted Naomi for days. It was still circling her brain the following Tuesday when Grant's doorman waved them up with a knowing smile, when Maya ran ahead to press the elevator button like she owned the building, when Grant opened his apartment door and Naomi saw immediately that something was different. The dining table was set for 3 with actual cloth napkins. There were flowers in the center, sunflowers, which were Naomi's favorites, though she'd only mentioned it once. And the smell coming from the kitchen suggested Grant had been cooking, actually cooking, not just ordering takeout and plating it nicely. What's all this? Naomi asked as Maya made a beeline for the block collection Grant kept in a basket by the couch. Dinner. Grant smiled, but there was nervousness underneath. I wanted to do something special. Is that okay? It's more than okay. It's... Grant, you didn't have to do this. I wanted to. He took her coat, hung it carefully. I'm making my grandmother's lasagna recipe, which is either going to be amazing or a disaster depending on whether I remember the steps correctly. Fair warning. The lasagna turned out to be amazing. They ate at the table like a real family, Maya chattering about her day while Grant asked follow-up questions that showed he was actually listening. After dinner, he pulled out a board game that was allegedly age-appropriate but definitely wasn't, and they played anyway with modified rules that made Maya shriek with laughter every time she won. By 8:30, Maya was yawning into her sleeve. Grant offered his guest room without hesitation, and Naomi found herself tucking her daughter into a bed that wasn't their own. in an apartment that was starting to feel dangerously like home. "I like it here," Maya mumbled, already half asleep. "Can we stay more?" "We'll see, baby." Naomi smoothed her hair back. "Sleep now." She found Grant in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher with the kind of careful attention that suggested he was buying time. Naomi leaned against the counter, watching him. "You're good with her," she said. "She makes it easy." Grant closed the dishwasher, turned to face her. "Naomi, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you respond." Her stomach dropped. Here it was, the moment where he explained that this was fun, but too complicated, that he'd tried but single motherhood was more than he'd signed up for, that he cared about her but not enough to "I'm falling in love with you," Grant said quietly. "With both of you, actually. Maya's incredible, and watching you be her mother is maybe the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed. And I know we said slow, and I'm not asking you to say it back or change anything about how we're doing this, but I needed you to know where I am, because keeping it to myself felt dishonest, and you asked me for honesty." Naomi's breath caught in her throat. "Grant, you don't have to say anything." He crossed to her, stopped just close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. "I just wanted you to know that this isn't casual for me. That when I think about the future, you're both in it, and whatever pace you need to set, I'm willing to match it. Okay?" She kissed him instead of answering, pulling him close with a desperation that surprised them both. Grant's hands came up to frame her face, and the kiss deepened into something that made Naomi forget about caution and fear and all the reasons she'd promised herself to go slow. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Grant rested his forehead against hers. "I take it that wasn't a rejection," he managed. "That was me being terrified and hopeful in equal measure." Naomi's hands were fisted in his shirt. "I'm not ready to say it back yet, but I'm getting there, and that scares me more than almost anything." "I can work with scared." Grant kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the corner of her mouth. "I'm pretty scared too, if we're being honest. I've never done this before, the relationship thing, the being part of someone's family thing. I'm going to mess up, Naomi. I'm going to say the wrong thing, or make the wrong call, or then we'll figure it out together." She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. If this gets too hard, if the reality of dating a single mother becomes too much, you tell me. You don't just disappear or fade out or decide you can't handle it without giving me the dignity of a conversation. Promise me that." Grant's expression shifted into something fierce. "I'm not him, Naomi. I'm not whoever left you and Maya, and I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to leave. I promise you that." They spent the rest of the evening on his couch, Naomi tucked against his side while they talked about everything and nothing. Around 11, she checked on Maya, still deeply asleep, and made the decision to stay the night. It felt monumental and ordinary at once, this choice to let Grant be part of their world, even in sleep. She woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and Grant's arm heavy across her waist. For a moment, Naomi let herself just exist in the safety of it before reality intruded in the form of a small voice calling from the guest room. "Mama, where are you?" "Coming, baby." Naomi extracted herself carefully, found Maya standing in the hallway looking confused but not upset. "Good morning. Did you sleep okay?" "This bed is really soft." Maya rubbed her eyes. "Can we have pancakes?" Grant emerged from the bedroom, hair disheveled and wearing sweatpants that made him look approachable in a way his work suits never did. "Did someone say pancakes? Because I make excellent pancakes." He wasn't lying. Breakfast turned into a production involving chocolate chips and whipped cream and Maya's delighted laughter. They were cleaning up when Grant's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, frowned. "I need to take this. It's the office. Give me 2 minutes?" He disappeared into his study while Naomi helped Maya wash chocolate off her face. She could hear Grant's voice through the door, professional and clipped, discussing something about an author retreat that weekend in the Catskills. When he emerged, his expression was complicated. "Problem?" Naomi asked. "The opposite, actually. The literary retreat we host every year for debut authors. One of the senior editors just had a family emergency and can't attend. I need someone to step in, and you'd be perfect for it." Grant hesitated. "It's this weekend, Friday through Sunday, up in the mountains. Networking, manuscript consultations, that kind of thing. I know it's last minute, and if you can't swing the childcare, I can check with my mom, Naomi said automatically, already running calculations. A weekend retreat would be huge for her career, a chance to build relationships with authors who were about to break big. But it would also mean leaving Maya for 3 days, and her mother lived in New Jersey and had opinions about everything Naomi did wrong as a parent. Think about it, Grant said. No pressure. And Naomi, if you do go, I'll be there too. Separate accommodations, completely professional. But I wanted you to know that up front. The retreat. 3 days in the Catskills with emerging authors and industry professionals, and Grant in the same building but separate rooms. It felt like a test she hadn't studied for. I'll let you know by this afternoon, she promised. Her mother answered on the third ring, and Naomi could hear the television in the background. The midday news that her mother watched religiously while complaining about how depressing it all was. Naomi, what's wrong? Is Maya okay? Everything's fine, Mom. I was actually calling to see if you could watch Maya this weekend. I have a work retreat that came up last minute. The pause was long enough to be meaningful. A work retreat, on the weekend. Yes, it's an annual event for debut authors, very prestigious. My boss asked me to represent the company. Your boss? Another pause. The one Vanessa said you were dating. Of course, Vanessa had spread that information through the family like wildfire. We're seeing each other, yes, but this is a work event, Mom. Completely professional. And he'll be there? Along with about 40 other people in the industry, yes. Her mother sighed in that particular way that conveyed disappointment without words. Naomi, I'm happy to watch Maya. You know I love my grandbaby, but I have to ask, are you sure you know what you're doing with this man? Getting involved with your boss, bringing him around Maya, now weekend retreats? Mom, I'm just saying, baby, you have to be careful. You can't afford another mistake like what? Naomi's voice came out sharper than intended. Like Terrence? Because Grant is nothing like Terrence. He shows up, he keeps his promises, he treats Maya like she matters. So please don't compare them. I'm not comparing. I'm just worried about you putting your job and your heart in the same basket. What happens if it doesn't work out? Then I deal with it, like I've dealt with everything else. Naomi forced her voice to soften. Mom, I appreciate your concern. I really do. But I need you to trust that I can make good decisions for myself and for Maya. Can you watch her this weekend or not? Of course I can watch her. Bring her by Friday afternoon, and I'll keep her until Sunday evening. Thank you. Naomi closed her eyes. And Mom, I love you even when you drive me crazy. I love you too, baby. I just want you to be happy. I'm working on it. Naomi confirmed her attendance at the retreat, then spent the week preparing. She read manuscripts until her eyes crossed, researched the attending authors, and tried not to think about 3 days in close proximity to Grant, while maintaining professional boundaries. Thursday afternoon, an email landed in her inbox from the retreat coordinator. Dear Ms. Carter, we're delighted to have you joining us this weekend. Your accommodation assignment is attached. Looking forward to seeing you Friday. Naomi opened the attachment and felt her stomach drop. The room assignment showed her name paired with a room number, but when she cross-referenced it with the retreat center's layout, something was wrong. She pulled up the website, checked the floor plan, and realized with dawning horror that her assigned room didn't exist. She called the coordinator immediately. Hi, this is Naomi Carter. I'm looking at my room assignment for this weekend, and I think there might be an error. The room number doesn't match the facility map. Oh! The coordinator, a cheerful woman named Beth, sounded flustered. Let me check on that. Can you hold? Naomi held, listening to classical music while her anxiety spiraled. When Beth came back on the line, she sounded even more flustered. Miss Carter, I'm so sorry. There was a miscommunication with our booking system. It looks like your original reservation was canceled by mistake, and we're actually at capacity for the weekend. Every room is booked. Canceled by mistake. Naomi kept her voice level through sheer force of will. So what are my options? Well, we could try to find you accommodation at a nearby hotel, but everything in the area is booked because of the fall foliage season. Or, Beth hesitated, Mr. Whitmore's suite has 2 bedrooms. It's our largest accommodation, and he did mention he'd be willing to share if it helped solve the problem. But only if you're comfortable with that arrangement, of course. Of course. Of course, the solution was sharing Grant's suite, which would look exactly like what everyone already suspected was happening. Naomi closed her eyes, ran through her options. Drive back and forth each day, 3 hours each way, unsustainable. Skip the retreat, career suicide given that Grant had specifically asked her to represent the company. Stay in Grant's suite and deal with the gossip. Survivable, maybe, if they kept it professional. Let me talk to Mr. Whitmore and confirm he's okay with it, Naomi said. I'll call you back in 15 minutes. She hung up and immediately texted Grant. Call me when you have a minute. Retreat housing issue. Her phone rang 30 seconds later. What's wrong? Grant's voice was sharp with concern. My room reservation was mysteriously canceled and the retreat center is now fully booked. Beth suggested I could share your suite since it has 2 bedrooms, but Grant, this looks bad. This looks exactly like what Derek tried to accuse us of. It looks like a booking error, which is what it is. Grant's voice was firm. Naomi, I'm not going to pretend I'm upset about spending the weekend in closer proximity to you, but I also know what this could look like to people who want to believe the worst. So here's what we do. I'll have Beth document the booking error in writing. We'll request separate beds be moved into both rooms so there's no question, and we'll be so aggressively professional all weekend that no one can possibly question it, okay? You're sure? I'm sure. And Naomi? Anyone who has a problem with this arrangement can take it up with me directly. Friday afternoon, Naomi dropped Maya at her mother's house with enough supplies for a small military campaign and promises to call every night before bed. The drive to the Catskills took 3 hours through increasingly beautiful fall foliage that Naomi barely noticed because her brain was spinning worst-case scenarios. The retreat center was stunning, a renovated estate with mountain views and the kind of rustic elegance that probably cost a fortune to maintain. Naomi checked in at the front desk, received her welcome packet, and tried not to look like she was dreading the room situation. Ms. Carter, welcome! Beth appeared from somewhere, all enthusiasm and nervous energy. I have the documentation you requested about the booking error, and I've had maintenance add a second bed to each room in Mr. Whitmore's suite. You'll have complete privacy, and I've made a note in the system that this was a last-minute accommodation due to our mistake. Thank you. Naomi took the paperwork, scanned it quickly. Everything looked legitimate. A genuine system error, time-stamped and documented. Where's the suite? 3rd floor, West Wing. Mr. Whitmore hasn't checked in yet, but I can have someone show you up. The suite was even nicer than the description suggested. A shared living area with a fireplace and mountain views, 2 separate bedrooms with their own bathrooms, and enough space that you could feasibly avoid someone if you wanted to. Naomi chose the smaller bedroom, unpacked her bag, and was reviewing the weekend schedule when she heard the main door open. Naomi? Grant's voice carried from the living area. In here! She emerged from her room to find him standing in the middle of the suite, suit jacket over one arm, tie loosened, looking like he'd driven straight from the office. Hey. His smile was warm but careful. How was the drive? Long? Yours? Same. Grant set down his bag, crossed to the windows. Hell of a view, and for what it's worth, I'm going to spend this weekend being so professional that people will wonder if I'm actually a robot. No one's going to have any ammunition, Naomi. I promise. She believed him. That was maybe the scariest part. She actually believed he'd keep that promise, and she trusted him enough to share this space without worrying about ulterior motives. The weekend schedule was packed. Manuscript consultations, craft workshops, networking dinners, and panel discussions about the future of publishing. Naomi threw herself into the work, building relationships with debut authors who were hungry for guidance and grateful for her attention. Grant was there too, always visible, but never hovering, treating Naomi with the same professional courtesy he showed every other editor. Saturday evening brought a formal dinner in the estate's dining room. Naomi wore the one cocktail dress she'd packed, and when she emerged from her room, Grant went very still. You look beautiful, he said quietly. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. She adjusted his tie without thinking, a gesture so domestic it made her pause. Sorry, don't apologize. Grant caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. Ready to be aggressively professional in front of 40 witnesses? As I'll ever be. Dinner was a complicated dance of networking and performance. Naomi sat between a debut novelist whose thriller manuscript she'd read the previous week and Rachel, who'd made the trip specifically to support Naomi's first major industry event. Grant was at the head table with the senior executives, far enough away to be proper, but close enough that Naomi could feel his attention whenever she looked up. She was midway through dessert when her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. She almost ignored it. This was a professional event, and checking your phone at the table was rude, but something made her glance at the screen. The message had no words, just a photo. It took Naomi a moment to process what she was seeing. The image showed Grant and a group of men in what looked like a college dorm room. They were young, maybe 20, and clearly drunk based on the scattered beer bottles and unfocused eyes. Someone had drawn on the photo with a photo editor, circling Grant and adding text in aggressive red letters. BET, $500. He can't seal the deal by graduation. Her hands went numb. The phone nearly slipped from her grip. A second text arrived. Ask him about the wager. Ask him what you're really worth to him. Then a third, cute kid. Shame her mom's so gullible. The dining room tilted. Naomi stood abruptly, her chair scraping loud enough to draw attention. Rachel grabbed her arm. Naomi, what's wrong? I need air. She pulled away, navigating between tables with her vision tunneling. Someone called her name, but she didn't stop, couldn't stop, just needed to get outside before she fell apart in front of everyone who already thought she'd slept her way to her promotion. She made it to the terrace before the shaking started. The mountain air was cold against her skin, shocking enough to cut through the panic. Naomi leaned against the stone railing and tried to breathe, tried to think past the roaring in her ears. A bet. Grant had made a bet about her, about getting her into bed, and everything, the wedding, the promotion, the dinners with Maya, the I'm falling in love with you, all of it was just him playing a long game to win money from his college buddies. Naomi, Grant's voice came from behind her, rough with concern. What happened? Rachel said you looked like you'd seen a ghost. She turned, held up her phone with shaking hands, watched his face change as he looked at the photo, the messages, the accusation written in red letters that might as well have been blood. I can explain, he started. Can you? Her voice was dangerously calm. Can you explain why there's a photo of you and your friends betting on whether you could sleep with someone by graduation? Can you explain why someone just sent me this with a message about asking what I'm worth to you? Can you explain any of this, Grant, in a way that doesn't make me the world's biggest fool? That photo is 15 years old. Grant's voice was tight. It was taken my junior year of college during a party where everyone was making stupid drunk bets about everything. And yes, there was a wager about whether I could... He stopped, seemed to physically force himself to continue. Whether I could convince a specific woman to sleep with me before graduation. The words landed like punches. Naomi felt something crack in her chest. But it wasn't you, Grant said desperately. Naomi, you were in high school when that photo was taken. We hadn't met. That bet had nothing to do with you. And I didn't even go through with it because halfway through sobering up, I realized how fucked up it was. I apologized to her, told her about the bet before anything happened, and took the loss because I'd rather be out $500 than be that guy. Then why would someone send this to me? Naomi's hands were fists at her sides. Why would they connect you to this if it has nothing to do with us? Because Derek is a vindictive bastard who still has access to people's personnel files. Grant pulled out his own phone, showed her a message he'd received 10 minutes earlier from an unknown number. Enjoy the retreat. Hope the room sharing is worth your career. Derek did this? Who else would benefit from making you doubt me right now? Who else has access to old college photos and your personal phone number and enough motivation to destroy what we're building? Grant stepped closer, and Naomi forced herself not to retreat. Naomi, I should have told you about that photo, about the bet, about all the stupid shit I did in college before I grew up and realized women aren't conquests. But I didn't because it felt irrelevant to who I am now, and I was wrong. I should have been completely transparent. You promised me honesty. Naomi's voice cracked. You promised, Grant. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so fucking sorry. He looked wrecked, and part of Naomi wanted to comfort him even while the rest of her wanted to run. But I need you to hear me. Everything I've said to you, everything I've done, every feeling I've shared, none of it is part of some game. You're not a bet or a conquest or a box to check. You're the woman I'm falling in love with, And your daughter is the kid who makes me want to be better than I was. That's real, Naomi. I need you to believe that's real. She wanted to believe him. That was the worst part, standing there with evidence of his past, staring at her from her phone screen. She still wanted to believe that what they had was real. I need time, she whispered. I need to think. Okay. Grant's hands flexed at his sides like he wanted to reach for her but knew better. Take all the time you need, but please, don't leave tonight. Don't drive 3 hours upset and angry and hurt. Stay in the suite. I'll find somewhere else to sleep. Just please don't leave like this. Naomi looked at him, at the man who'd made her daughter laugh, who'd defended her career, who'd said he was falling in love with her hours before someone tried to blow it all apart. She looked at her phone, at the photo that proved he'd once been the kind of person who made bets about women. She looked at the choice in front of her, trust or fear, possibility or safety, the leap or the ledge. I'll stay, she said finally, but not in the suite. Get me a different room or I'm driving home tonight, upset or not. Done. Grant was already texting. Beth will have another accommodation for you in 10 minutes. And Naomi, I meant what I said earlier. I'm not him. I'm not the person who left you. I'm the person who's begging you not to give up on us because of something I did 15 years ago that has nothing to do with how I feel about you now. We'll see, Naomi said, and walked back inside before she could change her mind. Beth found Naomi a room in the lodge's original wing, smaller, older, with heating that clanked through pipes like something was dying inside the walls. Naomi didn't care. She locked the door, sat on the bed that smelled faintly of lavender and old wood, and stared at her phone until the screen went dark. The photo was still there when she woke it again. Grant's younger face, drunk and stupid, circled in accusatory red. The words burned themselves into her brain. $500, he can't seal the deal by graduation. She should call someone. Rachel, maybe, or her mother. Someone who could tell her whether she was overreacting or underreacting, whether 15-year-old mistakes mattered when weighed against 8 weeks of present-day consistency. But it was past midnight, and the thought of explaining this to anyone made her throat close up. Instead, Naomi opened her text thread with Grant. The last message was from this morning. Can't wait to see you tonight. Maya sent me a drawing of a dragon wearing a crown. I'm hanging it on my fridge. She scrolled further back. 8 weeks of messages, hundreds of them, none of which read like manipulation. Just a man who asked about her day, who remembered Maya's dentist appointment, who sent articles he thought Naomi would find interesting and never expected praise for basic decency. Her finger hovered over the photo Derek had sent, because it had to be Derek. Grant was right about that. Who else had the motivation and the access? Who else would know exactly which wound to press on? Naomi thought about Terrence, about the promises he'd made while Maya was still growing inside her. The apartment they'd furnished together, the future they'd build, the family they'd become. She thought about the morning she'd woken up 6 months after giving birth to find a note on the kitchen counter. I can't do this. I'm sorry. Like apologies erased abandonment. Like, sorry, paid for diapers and daycare and all the nights she'd cried herself to sleep wondering what she'd done wrong. She'd promised herself she'd never be that vulnerable again, never let someone close enough to destroy her. And here she was, 8 weeks into falling for Grant Whitmore, and someone had just handed her the perfect excuse to run. Sleep didn't come. Sleep. Naomi lay in the dark, listening to the heating pipes clank and the wind rattle the windows. And when dawn finally crept through the curtains, she felt hollowed out. She showered, dressed in yesterday's clothes because she hadn't thought to grab her suitcase from the suite, and went downstairs for the continental breakfast that was supposed to kick off the final day of the retreat. Grant was already there, talking to a cluster of debut authors with the kind of engaged attention that made people feel important. He looked tired, shadows under his eyes, jaw tight with tension. But his smile for the writers was genuine. When he saw Naomi, something flickered across his expression too fast to name before he smoothed it back into professional neutrality. Rachel intercepted Naomi at the coffee station. Okay, spill. What the hell happened last night? She kept her voice low, but her eyes were sharp with concern. You disappeared. Grant looked like someone had shot him, and the rumor mill is working overtime. What are people saying? Naomi added cream to her coffee with hands that were almost steady. That you two had a fight. That the room sharing was exactly what it looked like. That Derek Vance is somewhere laughing his ass off because his complaint is looking more credible by the hour. Rachel touched her arm. Naomi, talk to me. What's going on? Naomi pulled out her phone, showed Rachel the photo and messages, watched her friend's expression shift from confusion to understanding to anger. That manipulative son of a bitch, Rachel hissed. This is character assassination. Derek sent this to you at the worst possible moment in front of the entire industry, knowing it would look like Grant's been playing you. Was he? The question came out smaller than Naomi intended. Playing me, I mean. Because that photo is real, Rachel. That bet existed. And maybe Derek's using it wrong, but the fact remains that Grant made wagers about women like we're sports teams. When he was 20 years old and drunk off his ass, Rachel's voice was firm. Naomi, I've known Grant for 8 years. He's demanding and sometimes oblivious to how the rest of us live, but he's not a game player. He doesn't manipulate. If anything, he's too direct, asks for what he wants, accepts when the answer is no, moves on without drama. Then why didn't he tell me about this before Derek could weaponize it? Because he probably hasn't thought about that stupid bet in 15 years, and it never occurred to him that someone would dig up his college mistakes to hurt you. Rachel set down her coffee, faced Naomi fully. Look, I'm not saying you have to forgive him or trust him or do anything you don't want to do, but I am saying that if you let Derek Vance destroy something good because he's vindictive and you're scared, you're going to regret it. The morning sessions were torture. Naomi sat through a panel on contemporary fiction trends and absorbed approximately nothing. She led a manuscript consultation with a talented debut author and gave feedback on autopilot, hoping it was coherent. Through it all, she felt Grant's presence in the room like a physical weight, never looking directly at her, never approaching, but there in her peripheral vision like a question she couldn't answer. Lunch was a buffet on the terrace, and Naomi filled a plate she had no intention of eating just to have something to do with her hands. She found a quiet corner overlooking the mountains and was attempting to disappear when footsteps approached. May I sit? Grant's voice was carefully neutral. Naomi gestured to the empty chair without looking at him. He sat in silence for a long moment before speaking. I talked to HR this morning, filed a formal complaint against Derek for harassment. They're opening an investigation into how he obtained your personal cell number and whether he accessed confidential personnel files to find that photo. Will it help? It'll document the pattern. Derek's been skating by on plausible deniability for years, but this crosses legal lines. Sending threatening messages, referencing your daughter, that's grounds for termination. Grant paused. I also called my lawyer. If Derek continues contact, we can pursue a restraining order. We. Naomi finally looked at him. There's no we in this, Grant. This is my problem. It's our problem. He's targeting you to hurt me, and that makes it my responsibility to what? Protect me? Save me? The words came out sharper than she intended. I don't need a white knight, Grant. I need honesty. I need to know that the person I'm letting into my daughter's life isn't going to turn into someone else the moment things get complicated. Grant's jaw worked. That photo, that bet, it was real. I'm not going to lie about it or pretend I've always been someone worth admiring. 20-year-old Grant was an entitled asshole who thought women existed for his entertainment. But that's not who I am now, Naomi. People change. They grow up. And I'd like to think that the past 8 weeks have shown you who I actually am, versus who I was at 20. Have they? Naomi set down her untouched fork. Because from where I'm sitting, I see a powerful man who decided he wanted something, someone, and made it happen. You created a position for me, removed the obstacle in my way, integrated yourself into my life so smoothly I barely noticed it was happening. And maybe that's genuine, or maybe it's just a more sophisticated version of the same game you played in college. The words landed like punches. Grant flinched. You think I manufactured our relationship? His voice was low, dangerous. You think I invented 8 weeks of dinners and conversations and falling in love with your daughter just to win some imaginary bet from 15 years ago? I think you're used to getting what you want, and I think I was convenient. The project, the challenge, the single mother who'd be so grateful for attention that she wouldn't question your motives. That's bullshit, and you know it. Grant's professional mask cracked. I pursued you because you're brilliant and strong and the best editor I've ever worked with. I fell for you because watching you parent Maya reminded me what real strength looks like. I love you because you make me want to be better than I was. But if you're determined to believe the worst of me because you're scared, then I can't stop you. I'm not scared. I'm being realistic. You're terrified. Grant leaned forward. You're terrified that I'm going to turn into Terrence, that I'm going to wake up one morning and decide this is too hard and leave you holding the pieces. So you're looking for reasons to push me away before I can hurt you, and Derek just handed you the perfect excuse. The truth of it hit like a slap. Naomi stood abruptly, her chair scraping against stone. I need space, she managed. I can't do this right now. She walked away before he could respond, before she could see whether the pain in his expression was real or just another layer of the performance she was increasingly certain she'd been watching all along. The afternoon session was mercifully short. Naomi made it through her final manuscript consultation, said her goodbyes to the authors she'd connected with, and was packing her bag when someone knocked on her door. It's Rachel, came the voice. Let me in before I pick the lock. Naomi opened the door to find her friend holding 2 glasses of wine and wearing an expression that meant business. We're talking, Rachel said, pushing past her into the small room. And you're going to listen, because I've watched you sabotage yourself before, and I'm not doing it again. I'm not sabotaging. You absolutely are. Rachel handed her a glass, took a seat on the bed. You're taking Derek's bait and running with it because it's easier than trusting that good things can actually happen to you. So let me lay out some facts. Fact 1. Grant recommended you for promotion twice before you ever spoke outside a work meeting. Fact 2. The acquisition data supports every claim he made about your talent. Fact 3. I've seen him with Maya, and that man is not faking the way he lights up when she talks about dinosaurs. People fake things all the time, Naomi said quietly. True, but liars don't usually spend 8 weeks proving themselves before asking for anything in return. They don't create paper trails documenting your professional excellence. They don't look at you the way Grant looks at you when he thinks no one's watching. Rachel took a sip of wine. Naomi, I get it. You've been burned. You built walls to protect yourself and Maya, and those walls have kept you safe. But they're also keeping you lonely. I'm not lonely. I have Maya. I have my career. You're exhausted from holding everything together alone. And the moment someone offers to help carry the weight, you're looking for proof that they're going to drop it. Rachel set down her glass. What if Grant is exactly who he appears to be? What if he made mistakes in college, learned from them, and grew into someone worthy of your trust? Are you really going to throw that away because Derek sent you a photo? Naomi's throat was tight. What if I let him in and he leaves anyway? What happens to Maya when the magic man disappears? Then you survive it, like you've survived everything else. But Naomi, what if he doesn't leave? What if he stays and you miss out on something real because you were too afraid to find out? The question sat between them like a challenge. Rachel finished her wine, stood, and pulled Naomi into a hug that felt like absolution. Drive home safe, she said. Take the time you need. But don't let fear make this decision for you. Naomi left the retreat as the sun was setting, painting the mountains in shades of orange and gold that would have been beautiful if she could focus on anything except the hollowness in her chest. The drive back to the city was a blur of highway and half-formed thoughts, and she was almost to her mother's house when her phone rang. Unknown number. Naomi almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Carter, this is Meadowbrook Hospital. I'm calling about Grant Whitmore. You're listed as his emergency contact. The world tilted. What happened? Mr. Whitmore was in a car accident about an hour ago. He's stable, but he's asking for you. Are you able to come to the hospital? I'm on my way. Naomi's hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. Is he... How bad is it? He has a concussion and some bruised ribs, but the doctors expect a full recovery. He was very insistent that we call you, Ms. Carter. Said it was important. Naomi disconnected, rerouted her GPS to the hospital, and broke at least 6 traffic laws getting there. The emergency room was fluorescent bright and smelled like antiseptic and fear. She gave Grant's name at the desk, was directed to a room in the back, and found him propped up in a hospital bed, looking pale but alive. You came, he said, and his voice was rough with relief and something that might have been pain medication. They said you were in an accident. Naomi stopped in the doorway, suddenly uncertain whether she had the right to be there. What happened? Left the retreat early. Couldn't stand being in the same building knowing you were upset. Grant gestured vaguely at his bandaged head. Roads were icy. Didn't see the curve until too late. Hit a tree, which was apparently better than going over the embankment, according to the paramedics. You could have died. The words came out strangled. But I didn't. I'm fine, Naomi. Just banged up. He tried to sit up straighter and winced. The nurses said you're my emergency contact. I don't remember updating that, but I'm glad they called you. I changed it, Naomi admitted. 3 weeks ago, after that dinner where Maya fell asleep on your couch and you carried her to the car without waking her up, I thought, if something happened to me, I wanted someone who'd take care of her, someone I trusted. Grant's expression cracked. You trust me with your daughter, but not with your heart? I'm terrified with both. Naomi moved closer to the bed, close enough to see the bruising on his face, the way his hands were clenched on the thin hospital blanket. Grant, that photo Derek sent, it broke something in me. Not because of what you did 15 years ago, but because it reminded me how easy it is to be wrong about people. How the person who promises forever can walk away like you never mattered. I'm not walking away. Grant's voice was fierce despite the exhaustion. I drove off a mountain road and the first thing I told the paramedics was to call you. I'm lying here with a concussion and cracked ribs, and all I can think about is whether you're okay, whether Maya's okay, whether I've lost you both because Derek's vindictive and I was stupid in college. You're not losing us. The words came out before Naomi could stop them, and she realized they were true. I'm angry and scared, and I still don't know how to trust this, but I'm here. That has to mean something. It means everything. Grant reached for her hand, and Naomi let him take it. His palm was warm, solid, real. Naomi, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear all of it before you respond. Okay. That bed in the photo, the woman it was about was named Jennifer Ashford. We were in the same econ class, and my fraternity brothers dared me to sleep with her because she'd turned down one of them. I was drunk and stupid, and I said yes. But when I actually talked to her, really talked, not just as part of the game, I realized she was smart and funny and deserved better than being someone's conquest. So I told her about the bet before anything happened. She slapped me, which I absolutely deserved, and then she told me I had a choice. Keep being the asshole who made bets about women or grow the fuck up. He paused, and Naomi squeezed his hand to show she was listening. I chose to grow up, apologized to her publicly, took the loss on the bet, and spent the next 4 years learning to see women as people instead of prizes. Jennifer and I became friends, actually, stayed in touch after college. She's married now, has 2 kids, and we send holiday cards. And when I met you at that wedding, when you were sitting alone at that back table like you were used to being invisible, my first thought wasn't about seduction or games. It was about how wrong it was that someone that brilliant could think she didn't deserve to be seen. Grant, let me finish. His grip tightened. I fell for you because you're everything I spent my 20s learning to value. Strength without cruelty, brilliance without arrogance, beauty that goes deeper than appearance. You make me want to be worthy of you. And your daughter, Naomi, Maya, makes me understand what it means to show up consistently, to be someone a kid can count on. That's not a game. That's the most important thing I've ever tried to do. Naomi's eyes were burning. I want to believe you. Then believe me. Or don't, and make me prove it over however many months or years it takes for you to feel safe. But please don't let Derek win by throwing away something real because of something I did when I was too young and stupid to know better. A knock at the door interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in, smiled apologetically. Sorry to interrupt, but there's a woman at the desk claiming to be Mr. Whitmore's sister. Says her name is Caroline, and she's threatening to tear down the building if we don't let her back here. That sounds like Caroline. Grant sighed. Let her in. Caroline Whitmore was a force of nature, shorter than Grant but carrying the same bone-deep confidence, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, yoga pants suggesting she'd been pulled away from Sunday evening relaxation. She swept into the room, took one look at her brother, and her expression shifted from panic to relief to anger. You absolute idiot, she said, but her voice cracked. Mom is going to kill you when she finds out you wrapped your car around a tree. Please don't tell Mom. Grant winced. I'm fine, Caroline, just a little banged up. A little. You have a concussion. Caroline turned to Naomi and her expression shifted to curiosity. You must be Naomi. Grant's mentioned you approximately 8,000 times since that wedding. I'm Caroline, The sister who has to deal with him when he does stupid things like drive in ice storms because he's upset. Nice to meet you. Naomi felt suddenly awkward, aware that she was meeting Grant's family while standing beside his hospital bed after a fight that had sent him off an icy road. He drove because of me, she said quietly. We had an argument at the retreat. He left early and made his own choice to drive in dangerous conditions, Caroline interrupted. Trust me, Grant's been making impulsive decisions since he was 5 and decided to fly off the garage roof with a bedsheet cape. This is on him, not you. She turned back to Grant. The doctor said you need someone to monitor you for the next 48 hours because of the concussion. I'm assuming you're coming home with me since your apartment has approximately 0 people to watch you pass out if your brain swells. Actually, Grant said, looking at Naomi, I was hoping Naomi might let me stay with her. If she's willing. If that's too much. My daughter's at my mother's until tomorrow evening, Naomi heard herself saying. You can stay with me tonight. We'll figure out tomorrow when it comes. Caroline's eyebrows rose, but she just nodded. Works for me. I'll leave you two to figure out logistics. Grant, do not die between now and when you're discharged, or I'm telling Mom everything, including that time you crashed her car in high school. She swept out as dramatically as she'd entered, leaving them alone again. You don't have to do this, Grant said. Caroline would take me, and I don't want you to feel obligated. I'm not obligated. I'm choosing. Naomi sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to jostle him. Grant, I'm still angry about the bet, and I'm still scared of trusting this. But watching the nurses call me as your emergency contact, driving here thinking you might be dead, sitting in this room and realizing I could have lost you before I figured out what we are, that's scarier than any photo Derek could send. So what does that mean? It means we try, slowly, carefully, with a lot more honesty than we've been managing. It means you stay at my apartment tonight so I can wake you up every 3 hours like the discharge papers are going to say. And it means tomorrow, when we're both thinking clearly, we figure out what happens next. She leaned forward, pressed a kiss to his forehead just above the bandage. But right now, you need to rest. Doctor's orders. I love you, Grant said, just so we're clear on that. I'm getting there, Naomi replied. Ask me again when you don't have a concussion. They discharged Grant at midnight with a packet of instructions and a prescription for pain medication that he insisted he didn't need. Naomi drove them to her apartment in Brooklyn, hyper-aware of every bump in the road, every time Grant winced. She helped him up the 3 flights of stairs to her door, got him settled on her couch because the bedroom felt too intimate, and set an alarm for 3 a.m. for the first concussion check. Your apartment is nice, Grant said, looking around at the space Naomi had worked so hard to make home. Smaller than I pictured, but it feels like you. Books everywhere and perpetual child chaos. Naomi handed him a glass of water and the pain medication he'd finally admitted he needed. That's pretty accurate. Love everywhere, Grant corrected. In the photos on the walls, the books you've saved for Maya, the way everything's organized to make life easier. You've built something beautiful here, Naomi. She sat beside him, not quite touching. Grant, about what you said in the hospital, about Jennifer Ashford and growing up and all of it. I believe you. I think I've believed you since the wedding, and that's what made Derek's photo so effective. It gave me an excuse to run before I got in too deep. Are you in too deep now? Completely. Naomi took his hand. And that terrifies me. But I'm done running. If we're doing this, we're doing it for real, messy and complicated and honest. No more secrets, no more old photos waiting to ambush us. Everything on the table. Everything on the table, Grant agreed. Starting with this. I'm going to ask you to marry me eventually. Not now, not next week, but when you're ready and Maya's ready and it feels right. I wanted you to know that's where I'm headed, so there's no surprises. Naomi's breath caught. That's quite a declaration for someone with a head injury. The concussion just lowered my filter. The feeling's been there for weeks. Grant squeezed her hand. You don't have to respond. I'm not asking yet. I'm just being honest about my intentions. Noted. Naomi stood, grabbed a blanket from the closet. Now sleep. I'll wake you in 3 hours to make sure you're not dying. Romantic. Practical. There's a difference. But when the alarm went off at 3 a.m., and Naomi shook Grant awake to check his pupils and ask him the date, he pulled her down beside him and kissed her with a gentleness that made her chest ache. Still planning to marry you, he mumbled, already drifting back to sleep. Just so you know. Still not ready to answer, Naomi replied, but she smiled in the darkness. She woke him again at 6 a.m., at 9 a.m., at noon. Each time he was more alert, more himself, until finally the doctor called to check in and cleared him for normal sleep. Naomi made lunch, grilled cheese and tomato soup, comfort food that Maya would have approved of, and they ate in comfortable silence. "I should call my mother," Naomi said eventually. "Let her know I'm picking Maya up later today. She's going to have questions about why I'm bringing home a man with visible head trauma." "Tell her the truth." Grant set down his soup spoon. "Tell her I drove like an idiot in an ice storm, crashed my car, and you're taking care of me because you're a better person than I deserve. I'll leave out the part where it was my fault you were upset. It wasn't your fault. Derek manipulated the situation and I chose to leave without thinking it through. That's on me." Grant reached across the table. "Naomi, we're going to have to tell people about us eventually. Your mother, my family, the people at work. Are you ready for that?" "I don't know. Are you?" "I've been ready since the wedding. I'm just waiting for you." Naomi thought about the photo, about Derek's vindictiveness, about all the ways this could still go wrong. Then she thought about Grant carrying Maya to the car, about his sister's easy acceptance, about the way he'd said he was planning to marry her like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Okay," she said, "we tell people. We're official. But Grant, if this goes bad, if you wake up one day and decide it's too much—" "I won't." His voice was firm. "I promise you, Naomi, I'm not going anywhere unless you ask me to leave, and even then, I'll probably argue." "Good." She stood, collected their dishes. "Because Maya's going to be devastated if the magic man disappears, and I'm not equipped to handle that level of 5-year-old heartbreak." "Just Maya?" Grant asked, and his smile was knowing. "Don't push your luck. You still have a concussion." But when he pulled her into his lap carefully, mindful of his bruised ribs, Naomi went willingly. They sat like that for a long time, her head on his shoulder, his arms around her waist, both of them breathing in the possibility of something that felt dangerously like forever. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. "Maya's asking when you're coming. She misses you." "We should go get her," Naomi said. "We should," Grant agreed. "And Naomi, thank you for not giving up on us, for driving to the hospital, for taking care of me, for all of it. Thank me by not dying in your sleep." But she kissed him anyway, soft and careful, a promise of what they were building together. They drove to New Jersey in Naomi's car, Grant riding passenger with sunglasses to hide the worst of the bruising. Maya came running when she saw them, launching herself at Naomi with the force of a cannonball before noticing Grant and stopping short. "You're hurt," she said, voice small. "Just a little accident." Grant crouched down to her level despite the way it clearly pained him. "But I'm okay. Your mom took really good care of me." "Did she use magic?" "The best kind. The kind called kindness." Maya considered this, then threw her arms around his neck in a hug that made Grant's eyes close with something that looked like peace. Naomi's mother watched from the doorway, and when they finally got Maya buckled into the car and said their goodbyes, she pulled Naomi aside. "He looks at you like you hung the moon," she said quietly, "and at Maya like she's his own. I'm sorry I questioned it before. I was wrong." "You were being protective," Naomi replied. "I understand. Just don't let fear keep you from being happy, baby. You deserve happiness. Both of you do." The drive back to Brooklyn was filled with Maya's chatter about Grandma's house and whether they could get pancakes for dinner. Grant fielded her questions with patience, made her laugh with a new coin trick, and when they finally got home and Maya fell asleep early from the weekend's excitement, he helped Naomi carry her to bed. "This could be our life," he said quietly, watching Naomi tuck Maya in. "All of this, every day." "It could be," Naomi agreed. "If we don't screw it up, then let's not screw it up." They spent the evening on the couch, Grant's head in Naomi's lap while she read a manuscript, and he dozed in that careful way of someone monitoring their own brain function. It was domestic and simple, and everything Naomi had convinced herself she couldn't have. Around 10 p.m., her phone buzzed with an email from HR. The subject line read, "Derek Vance investigation. Update." Naomi opened it with her heart in her throat. "Passos, Carter, This email is to inform you that Derek Vance has been terminated effective immediately following our investigation into multiple policy violations, including harassment, misuse of confidential personnel information, and unprofessional conduct. Your complaint, combined with evidence provided by Mr. Whitmore and corroborating testimony from other employees, resulted in findings that supported immediate dismissal. Please contact our office if you have any questions or concerns. Grant, Naomi said, Derek's gone. They fired him. Grant sat up carefully. Good. He shouldn't be able to hurt anyone else the way he tried to hurt you. It's really over. The Derek part is over. The U.S. part is just beginning. He pulled her close, mindful of his injuries. Naomi Carter, I am completely in love with you, and I'm going to spend however long it takes proving that I'm worthy of you and your daughter. You already have, Naomi whispered. You just needed to wait for me to catch up. They fell asleep like that, tangled together on the couch in Naomi's small Brooklyn apartment. And when Naomi woke up at 3 a.m., out of habit to check on Grant, she found him watching her with an expression that looked like home. Go back to sleep, he murmured. I'm not going anywhere. And for the first time in 5 years, Naomi believed it. Morning came with Maya's voice singing something about dragons in the kitchen and the smell of burning toast. Naomi untangled herself from Grant carefully. His ribs were still tender, his face still marked with fading bruises, and found her daughter standing on a step stool attempting to operate the toaster with the determination of a 5-year-old who had decided breakfast was her responsibility. Baby, what are you doing? Making breakfast for you and Grant because he's hurt and you're tired. Maya gestured at the smoking toaster with a butter knife that made Naomi's maternal instinct scream. But the bread keeps getting stuck. Let me help. Naomi unplugged the toaster, extracted the charred remains of what had once been whole wheat bread, and pulled Maya into a hug. That was very sweet of you, but how about we make breakfast together, the three of us? Is Grant awake? Maya craned her neck to see into the living room where Grant was sitting up on the couch, looking rumpled and amused. I'm awake, he called, and I happen to be an excellent pancake chef if someone wants to supervise me. Me? I'll supervise. Maya scrambled down from the step stool and ran to Grant, stopping just short of launching herself at him. Are your ribs still broken? Just bruised, which means gentle hugs only. Grant opened his arms, and Maya stepped into them with a carefulness that made Naomi's throat tight. Now, Chef Maya, what kind of pancakes are we making? Regular or chocolate chip? Chocolate chip, obviously. They made a mess of Naomi's small kitchen, flour on the counters, chocolate chips on the floor, batter somehow on the ceiling, but the pancakes were perfect, and Maya's laughter was worth the cleanup. They ate at the tiny table that barely fit 3. Maya chattering about her weekend with Grandma, while Grant and Naomi traded looks that felt like entire conversations. After breakfast, after Maya had been dispatched to her room to play, Naomi sat beside Grant on the couch and faced the question they'd been avoiding. What happens now? She asked. With work? With us? With all of it? Now we stop pretending this is casual. Grant took her hand, threaded their fingers together. Now we tell HR that we're in a relationship, so it's documented properly. Now we find you a better apartment because this place is great, but you deserve space for Maya to have her own room. Now we figure out what our life looks like when we're not hiding or worried about what people think. You make it sound simple. The core of it is simple. I love you. You're falling in love with me. Don't argue. I can see it in your face. Maya likes me, I'm crazy about her, and we all make each other better. Everything else is logistics. He paused. Unless you're having second thoughts? I'm having about 1,000 thoughts, and second is just the beginning. Naomi leaned her head on his shoulder. But no, I'm not backing out. I'm just trying to figure out how to do this without screwing it up. We'll screw it up sometimes. That's part of being human. The important thing is we screw it up together and fix it together. Grant pressed a kiss to her hair. Speaking of which, I need to tell you something that might complicate things. Naomi's stomach dropped. What? Jennifer Wu from HR called me yesterday while you were picking up Maya. The investigation into Derek turned up more than just harassment. He was also falsifying acquisition reports, taking kickbacks from literary agents, and generally running a scheme that cost the company about $200,000 over 3 years. Grant's expression was grim. They want me to personally oversee the reorganization of the entire contemporary fiction division, which means long hours and a lot of stress for the next few months. I'm telling you now because I don't want you to think I'm pulling away or losing interest when I'm just drowning in cleanup. Can I help? You already are. Kevin's being promoted to Derek's old position, and I'm recommending you for division head of acquisitions, which means we'd be working together even more closely, and I need you to be comfortable with that before I submit the paperwork. Naomi sat up, stared at him. Division head? Grant, that's a VP level position. And you're qualified for it. Your track record speaks for itself, and Kevin's already told HR he thinks you're the best person for the job. Grant met her eyes. But I need to know this won't feel like I'm controlling your career or making decisions for you. If you want the position, it's yours. If you don't, I'll find someone else and you stay as senior editor with no hard feelings. Your choice, Naomi. Always your choice. She thought about the back table at the wedding, about Derek stealing her credit, about every time she'd made herself small to avoid conflict. She thought about Maya's future, about the apartment with space for a real bedroom, about the career she'd dreamed of when she first fell in love with books. I want it, she said, and I want us to document every step so no one can claim favoritism. I want my promotion to be so airtight that even people who hate me have to admit I earned it. Done, Grant smiled. Jennifer's already drafting the paperwork with enough documentation to survive a federal audit. By the time HR is finished, your personnel file is going to be thicker than War and Peace. Good. Naomi kissed him, soft and certain. Now go rest. Your concussion doesn't care about corporate reorganization. The next 8 weeks were chaos. Grant spent 14-hour days at the office untangling Derek's schemes while Naomi stepped into her new role as division head and discovered that leadership was both harder and more rewarding than she'd imagined. Kevin was a steady second in command. Marcus and Jenna thrived with additional responsibility, and the contemporary fiction division started functioning like the well-oiled machine it should have been all along. At home, Grant became part of their routine so gradually that Naomi barely noticed the transition. He kept a toothbrush in her bathroom, clothes in her closet, his favorite coffee in her cabinet. He showed up for Maya's kindergarten graduation with flowers and a card that made Naomi cry in the school auditorium. He learned that Tuesday nights were sacred, just Naomi and Maya, no exceptions, and never complained when Naomi canceled dates because work demanded her attention. They fought sometimes, about whose turn it was to do dishes, about whether Maya should start piano lessons, about Grant's tendency to work through meals when he was stressed. But they fought fair. No low blows, no storming out, no using each other's vulnerabilities as weapons, and they always fixed it before going to bed angry. 3 months after the retreat, Grant took Naomi apartment hunting. They looked at places in Park Slope with enough space for Maya to have her own room, a real kitchen, maybe even a small office where Naomi could work from home when needed. The apartments were beautiful and expensive and absolutely within reach now that Naomi's salary reflected her actual value. They were touring a third-floor walk-up with exposed brick and huge windows when Maya ran ahead into what would be her bedroom and squealed with delight. "Mama, there's a window seat! Can I read here, please?" "We haven't decided on this place yet, baby. But it's perfect." Maya bounced on the built-in bench. "And it's close to Grant's house so he can visit all the time." The realtor, a sharp-eyed woman who'd clearly clocked their dynamic, smiled knowingly. "Actually, Mr. Whitmore's building is just 4 blocks from here. Very convenient for families who like to spend time together." "We'll think about it," Naomi said. But she was already imagining Maya curled up on that window seat with a book, imagining Grant helping with homework at the kitchen table, imagining a life that looked nothing like the one she'd built alone. That evening, after Maya was asleep and they were cleaning up dinner dishes in Naomi's too small kitchen, Grant broached the subject they'd been dancing around. "You loved that apartment," he said, scrubbing a pan with more attention than it required. "It's a great space. But it's expensive, and I'm trying to be smart about money now that I actually have some." Naomi dried the pan, put it away. "I can afford it, but just barely. And if anything goes wrong, if I lose my job or the market crashes, or you could let me help." Grant set down the dish soap, turned to face her. "Before you say no, hear me out. I have money, Naomi. More than I need, honestly. And I'd like to help you get that apartment, as a gift, not a loan. No strings, no ownership stake, just me wanting Maya to have her window seat and you to have space to breathe. Grant, I know what you're going to say, that you can't accept that kind of help, that it's too much, that you need to do this yourself. And I respect that impulse. I really do. But Naomi, letting people help you isn't weakness, it's trust. And I'd really like you to trust me with this. Naomi looked at him, at the man who'd shown up for every kindergarten event, who'd learned to braid Maya's hair through YouTube tutorials, who'd reorganized an entire division while still making time for Tuesday night dinners at the Fish Tank restaurant. She looked at the offer and saw not control, but partnership. Half, she said finally. You contribute half toward the down payment. I cover the mortgage and maintenance. That way it's ours, a shared investment in our future. But I'm still carrying my weight. Our future. Grant's smile was soft. I like the sound of that. Don't let it go to your head. We're still taking things slow. Naomi, we're planning shared real estate investments and raising your daughter together. I think we've left slow behind somewhere around month 2. She kissed him to avoid admitting he was right. They closed on the apartment in early summer. Maya had her window seat. Naomi had her office. And Grant had a key that he used 3 or 4 nights a week when work kept him late, and it was easier to crash at their place than go back to Tribeca. It wasn't officially living together. Grant still maintained his own apartment, still gave Naomi the space she needed. But it was close enough that Maya started calling it our house with Grant instead of Mama's apartment. Work continued to evolve. Naomi's division brought in 6 major acquisitions in 4 months, 3 of which hit bestseller lists before publication. The industry noticed. Publishers Weekly ran a profile on Meridian's contemporary fiction resurgence, and Naomi's name was mentioned more times than Grant's. She framed that article and hung it in her office, where she could see it on hard days. Kevin pulled her aside one afternoon with news that made her stomach drop. Random House is trying to poach you, he said without preamble. They called me for a reference, which I didn't give because fuck those guys, but I thought you should know they're circling. Random House wants me? Naomi sat down hard in her desk chair. Of course they do. You're the hottest editor in contemporary fiction right now, and you're making Meridian look good. Other publishers want that magic. Kevin leaned against her doorframe. What are you going to do? I'm not leaving. The words came automatically, but even as she said them, Naomi wondered if they were true. Random House was huge, prestigious, the kind of place she dreamed about working when she first got into publishing. Am I crazy for not even considering it? Are you staying because you love the work, or because you're dating the CEO? The question hung between them like a challenge. Naomi thought about it honestly, about her team, her authors, the division she'd helped rebuild. About Grant, yes, but also about the career she'd carved out for herself at Meridian. Both, she said finally. I'm staying because I love what I'm building here, and because leaving would complicate my relationship with Grant in ways I'm not ready to navigate. Is that the wrong answer? It's an honest answer, which is the only kind that matters. Kevin straightened. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're staying. We're a better division with you leading it. That night, Naomi told Grant about Random House over takeout Thai food in their apartment. She'd stopped thinking of it as just hers. Somewhere around the second time, Maya insisted Grant read her bedtime story. You should take the meeting, Grant said, stabbing at his pad thai with more violence than the noodles deserved. I already told Kevin I'm not interested. Naomi, this is Random House. You can't just dismiss them without at least hearing the offer. Why not? I'm happy here. We're happy here. She set down her fork. Grant, what's really bothering you? He was quiet for a long moment, the kind of silence that meant he was choosing words carefully. I'm bothered that you might be limiting your career because of me, that you'll wake up in 5 years and resent me for being the reason you didn't pursue opportunities. That's not... Grant, I'm choosing this. I'm choosing Meridian and our division and the work we're doing together. Not because I'm limiting myself, but because I'm building something that matters. And if I wasn't in the picture, if we weren't together, would you still choose Meridian over Random House? The question was a trap, and they both knew it. If Naomi said yes, she was lying. If she said no, she was admitting her career was secondary to their relationship. She went with the truth instead. I don't know, maybe not, But you are in the picture, Grant, and that's part of my decision-making process now. It's such just like you turned down that CEO position at Simon & Schuster last month because it would have meant relocating to California and leaving me and Maya behind. Grant's head snapped up. How did you know about that? Rachel told me. Apparently you told their recruiter you weren't interested in any position that required leaving New York, and they assumed it was because of family. Naomi reached across the table. You made a career choice based on our relationship. Why is it different when I do the same thing? Because I don't want to be the reason you have regrets. Then don't be. Be the reason I'm brave enough to build the career I actually want instead of chasing prestige. She squeezed his hand. I'm not staying at Meridian because I'm settling, Grant. I'm staying because I'm choosing us. There's a difference. He pulled her out of her chair and into his lap, and they stayed like that until Maya wandered out of her room, asking why they were being mushy on a school night. Summer turned to fall, and with it came Maya's 6th birthday. They threw a party at the apartment, the first real party Naomi had ever hosted, with a dozen kindergarten friends and enough pizza to feed a small army. Grant did magic tricks that had the kids screaming with delight. Caroline showed up with a cake that was structurally ambitious and gravitationally unstable. And Naomi's mother actually teared up watching Grant help Maya blow out her candles. After the kids had been picked up and the apartment was destroyed in the way only children's parties could achieve, Maya fell asleep on the couch with frosting in her hair. Grant carried her to bed while Naomi started the cleanup, and when he came back, he found her staring at the disaster with an expression that might have been joy. That was a good day, she said. That was a great day. Grant surveyed the wreckage. Although I think we're going to be finding glitter in unusual places for the next 6 months. Worth it. Naomi turned to him. Grant, I need to tell you something. His expression shifted, went wary. Okay? I'm in love with you. Completely, terrifyingly in love with you. And I'm ready to stop qualifying it or waiting for the other shoe to drop. I love you, and I want this. The 3 of us. This life. All of it. Grant was across the room in 3 strides, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like birthday cake and promises. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. I've been waiting for you to say that for 6 months. I know. I'm sorry I took so long. Don't apologize. You needed time, and I had enough patience for both of us. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. Naomi Carter, I love you. I love your daughter. I love the life we're building together, and I want to make it official. Official how? Grant dropped to one knee right there in the middle of the glitter-covered disaster that was their living room and pulled a small box from his pocket. I've been carrying this for 3 weeks waiting for the right moment, and I'm realizing there's no perfect time. There's just us in our apartment covered in frosting and glitter, exhausted from the best birthday party I've ever attended. So I'm asking now, in the mess and the chaos and the reality of our life. He opened the box to reveal a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the light and threw rainbows across the floor. Naomi, will you marry me? Will you let me be Maya's stepfather and your partner and the person you come home to every night? Will you trust me with your future and let me trust you with mine? Naomi looked at the ring, at Grant's face, at the apartment they'd built together. She thought about the wedding where this all started, about sitting alone at that back table and feeling invisible. She thought about how far she'd come, professionally, personally, in every way that mattered. Yes, she said, and her voice was steady. Yes, I'll marry you, on one condition. Name it. We ask Maya first, together. And if she's not ready, we wait until she is. Deal. Grant slid the ring onto her finger, stood, pulled her close. Should we wake her up? Absolutely not. She needs sleep more than she needs this news tonight. Naomi looked at the ring, at the physical proof that this was real. We'll tell her tomorrow morning. Make it special. They cleaned up in comfortable silence, stealing kisses between trash bags and dish soap, and fell into bed exhausted and happy. Naomi lay awake long after Grant fell asleep, looking at the ring on her finger and feeling the weight of it. Not just the jewelry, but the promise it represented. Morning came with Maya climbing into bed between them, her hair a disaster and her breath questionable. Is it still my birthday? She asked hopefully. Birthday's over, baby, but we have something important to talk to you about. Naomi sat up, pulled Maya into her lap. Grant wants to ask you a question. Grant propped himself up on one elbow, suddenly looking nervous in a way Naomi had never seen. Maya, you know I love you and your mom very much, right? Right. Maya nodded seriously. Well, I asked your mom to marry me last night, and she said yes. But only if you say it's okay. He took a breath. So I'm asking you, would it be okay if I married your mom and became your stepdad officially? I'd still be Grant, and I'd still do magic tricks and make pancakes, but I'd also be family. Forever family. What do you think? Maya looked at Naomi, then at Grant, then at the ring on Naomi's finger. Her face was solemn in the way only 6-year-olds could manage when considering something important. Would you live here all the time instead of just sometimes? If that's okay with you, yes. And would I have to call you Dad? Only if you want to. Grant works just fine. And you promise you won't leave like my other dad did? The question broke something in Naomi's chest. Grant's expression went fierce. Maya, I promise you, with my whole heart, I'm not leaving, not ever. Your mom and I are a team now, and that means you and me are a team too, forever. Even if you get mad at me or I mess up sometimes, I'm still going to be here. That's what family means. Maya considered this with the gravity of someone making a life-altering decision. Then she launched herself at Grant with enough force to make him grunt. Okay, you can marry Mama and be forever family, but can we still have Tuesday nights, just me and Mama? Absolutely. Tuesday nights are sacred. Grant hugged her tight, met Naomi's eyes over her head. So is that a yes? That's a yes. Maya pulled back. Can I tell Grandma? She's going to be so excited. You can tell everyone, Naomi said, and her voice was thick with tears she wasn't bothering to hide. We're getting married, baby. We're going to be a real family. We're already a real family, Maya said with 6-year-old wisdom. Now we're just going to be a married family. That's different. They told Naomi's mother that afternoon, and she cried the happy tears Naomi had been waiting to see for 6 years. They told Caroline, who immediately started planning a wedding that would apparently require coordinating with NASA based on the spreadsheets she created. They told the office on Monday, documented it with HR, and weathered the gossip with the security of knowing their relationship was built on more than rumor. Rachel cornered Naomi in the break room with a smile that was pure vindication. I told you he was one of the good ones, she said. You did. I should have listened sooner. You listened when you were ready. That's what matters. Rachel pulled her into a hug. I'm happy for you, Naomi. You deserve this. The wedding happened 4 months later on a Saturday in early spring. They kept it small, family and close friends, held at the botanical gardens where Maya could run through the flowers in her flower girl dress. Naomi wore ivory instead of white, simple and elegant. And when she walked down the aisle, it wasn't toward a stranger, but toward the man who'd learned to braid her daughter's hair and organize her spice cabinet and love her through her fear of being loved. Grant's vows made her cry. Naomi's vows made him smile that soft smile he reserved for moments that mattered. And when the officiant asked if anyone objected, Maya stood up from her seat in the front row. I object to waiting any longer, she announced. Can they kiss now so we can have cake? The laughter was warm and real, and the kiss was perfect. And the cake, courtesy of Caroline's ambitious baking, was delicious despite being structurally questionable. They honeymooned in the Catskills, full circle from the retreat where everything had almost fallen apart. This time they stayed in a different resort, just the 3 of them, and spent a week hiking and reading and being together without the pressure of work or schedules or anything except family time. On their last night, while Maya slept in the adjoining room, Grant pulled Naomi onto the balcony overlooking the mountains. I have something for you, he said, handing her an envelope. Inside was a document, legal, official, with both their names at the top. Naomi scanned it quickly, her breath catching when she understood what she was reading. You're setting up a trust fund for Maya, she said. Grant, this is too much. It's her future, college, graduate school, whatever she needs. I don't want her to ever have to choose between her dreams and financial reality the way you did. He pulled her close. And before you argue, it's done. Already funded. You can't talk me out of it. I wasn't going to argue. Naomi folded the papers carefully. I was going to say thank you for seeing her as yours, for investing in her future, for being the father she deserves. She makes it easy. Grant kissed her forehead, just like her mother. They stood there watching the sunset paint the mountains in shades of gold and amber, and Naomi thought about how far she'd come from that back table at the wedding. From invisible to seen, from alone to partnered, from surviving to thriving. "What are you thinking?" Grant asked. "That I'm happy. Genuinely, terrifyingly happy. And that if you told me a year ago this is where I'd be, I wouldn't have believed you." "Believe it now?" "Every day." She turned to face him, this man who'd chosen her and her daughter and the complicated, beautiful mess of their lives. "I love you, Grant Whitmore. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for saying yes." He smiled. "To the job, to the apartment, to marrying me, to all of it. Thank you for being brave enough to let me in." They went back inside to their daughter, their family, their life. And if sometimes Naomi still woke up in the middle of the night checking to make sure it was all real, Grant was always there to remind her that this was the real thing, messy and imperfect and absolutely worth fighting for. 5 years later, Naomi would stand at the front of a publishing conference accepting an award for editorial excellence, and in her acceptance speech she'd thank her team, her authors, and the family that made it all possible. Grant would be in the audience with 11-year-old Maya, both of them beaming with pride, and that night they'd celebrate with takeout Thai food in the apartment that had somehow become too small for their growing family. Because there was another bedroom now, occupied by 3-year-old twins who had Grant's eyes and Naomi's stubborn streak and Maya's insistence that everything should involve dragons. The apartment was chaos and noise and the opposite of the quiet, lonely life Naomi had built before Grant showed up at that back table and asked if he could sit down. But that was years in the future. For now, on this night in the Catskills, Naomi had everything she needed. A daughter sleeping safely in the next room, a husband who'd proven himself worthy of trust, and the bone-deep knowledge that she'd built something real. The magic man had kept his promise. He'd stayed. And Naomi Carter Whitmore, Senior VP of Contemporary Fiction, best-selling editor, wife and mother, and the woman who'd learned to be visible, had finally stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because sometimes, just sometimes, the fairy tale was real. You just had to be brave enough to believe in it.